Found by Ashes, a dark Mafia arranged marriage romance prologue. The night that changed everything. The rain tasted like copper and gasoline. Eva Sinclair pressed her back against the corrugated metal of the warehouse, her lungs burning as she struggled to silence her ragged breathing. Her white waitress uniform clung to her skin, soaked through and stained with something she didn't want to identify. Blood, maybe. Or oil from the dumpster she'd crawled behind 3 blocks back. 3 blocks. That's how long she'd been running. The collection agents had found her mother's apartment 20 minutes ago. Eva had been there, stupidly, naively thinking she could reason with them, thinking that showing them her bank statements, the pitiful $247 she'd managed to save, would buy her more time. Instead, it had bought her a hand around her throat and a promise that made her blood run cold. Your mother's debt is now your debt, sweetheart, and we always collect. So she'd run. Now, huddled in the industrial wasteland of the Harbor District at 2 in the morning, Eva realized she had nowhere left to go. Her phone was dead. Her apartment was compromised. Her mother was sedated in a hospice facility that Eva could no longer afford, racking up bills that multiplied like a cancer. $87,000. That's what her mother's mistakes cost. What her mother's addiction to poker rooms and loan sharks had become. A number so impossible, so insurmountable, that Eva had stopped thinking of it as money at all. It was just the end. The period at the end of a sentence that had been written long before Eva understood what it meant to pay for someone else's sins. A sharp crack split the night. Eva's head snapped up. That wasn't thunder. Another crack. Then another. The unmistakable percussion of gunfire, close enough that she could hear the brass casings hitting concrete. No, no, no. She scrambled to her feet, her worn sneakers slipping on wet gravel. The smart thing would be to run in the opposite direction, to put as much distance as possible between herself and whatever gang war was erupting in the warehouse district. But there was no opposite direction anymore. Behind her, the collection agents who would drag her to God knows where and do God knows what until her debt was settled. Ahead, gunfire and chaos, but also the chance to disappear into the confusion. Eva ran toward the gunfire. The warehouse loomed before her, a skeletal structure of rust and broken windows. Light flickered inside, the orange glow of muzzle flashes painting grotesque shadows on the walls. She could hear shouting now, men's voices sharp with violence and fear. Just get through. Just get to the other side and keep running. She didn't make it 3 steps inside before the world exploded. The force of the blast threw her sideways, slamming her into a concrete pillar. Pain erupted across her ribs, her vision swimming with stars. Smoke billowed through the warehouse, acrid and choking. Through the haze, she saw shapes, men in dark suits firing at each other with a precision that spoke of training, of organization. This wasn't a random gang fight. This was an execution. Got the shipment, burned it all, every last brick. Trace it back to Volkov. Eva tried to crawl, to make herself small, invisible. Her hands met broken glass, and she bit back a cry as shards embedded in her palms. The smoke was thicker now, burning her throat, her eyes. She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, couldn't think beyond the primal drumbeat of survive, survive, survive. A hand closed around her ankle. Eva screamed. Shut up. The voice was low, controlled, and somehow more terrifying than shouting would have been. Unless you want every remaining shooter to know exactly where you are. The hand dragged her backward, away from the killing floor and into the shadows behind a stack of shipping containers. Eva kicked, clawed, fought with the desperate strength of someone with nothing left to lose. Stop, the voice commanded. I'm not going to hurt you. You're lying. The word came out as a cough, her lungs still rebelling against the smoke. The man hauled her fully behind the containers and released her ankle. In the dim light filtering through the smoke, Eva got her first real look at him. Tall, powerfully built beneath a black suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and unforgiving lines. but it was his eyes that froze her in place, cold, gray as the storm clouds outside, and looking at her with an intensity that made her feel stripped bare, seen in a way that had nothing to do with kindness. "You're bleeding," he observed, his gaze dropping to her shredded palms. "You're shooting people," Eva shot back, because fear made her stupid. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his features. "Not anymore. They're all dead." The casual way he said it, like he was commenting on the weather, made her stomach turn. Eva scrambled backward, putting distance between them, though some rational part of her brain whispered that distance wouldn't save her if this man decided she was a problem. "Don't run." He didn't move, didn't chase, just watched her with those unsettling eyes. "You're safer with me than out there." "I'm not safe anywhere," Eva heard herself say. The exhaustion, the fear, the sheer absurdity of her life in this moment, it all came spilling out. "So it doesn't really matter, does it?" The man tilted his head, studying her. "You're being hunted." It wasn't a question. Eva's laugh came out broken. "Is it that obvious?" "You have the look." He stepped closer, and Eva hated how her body tensed, ready to bolt despite having nowhere to go. "Prey always does." "Then you should let me go. I'm nobody's problem but my own." "That's where you're wrong." He crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level. Up close, she could see the blood speckling his white shirt, the calm focus in his expression that spoke of a man completely in control of his violence, a man for whom death was merely business. "Everyone is someone's problem in this city," he continued. "The question is whose problem, and what they plan to do about it." I can't." Eva pressed her ruined palms against her eyes, past the point of caring about the pain. "I just need to disappear, just for a while, until I can figure out how to pay off your mother's debt." Eva's hands dropped. Her heart stopped. "How did you?" "It's my business to know." The man reached into his jacket. Eva flinched and pulled out a pristine handkerchief. He took her wrist, surprisingly gentle, and began wrapping her bleeding palm. "Gambling debts to the Bratva, $87,000. Your mother is dying in hospice. You work 2 jobs and haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in 6 months. You're 24 years old and you're drowning." Each fact landed like a punch. Eva wanted to deny it, to demand how he knew, but the words stuck in her throat, because he was right about all of it. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who can make your problems disappear." He finished wrapping her other hand, his touch clinical, impersonal. "For a price." Of course. There was always a price. Eva had learned that lesson too well. "I don't have any money, obviously." "I don't want your money." "Then what?" He stood, towering over her again, and extended his hand. "An offer. A choice. Your mother's debt is, as of tonight, my property. I've purchased it from the Bratva, along with several other liabilities, which means your collectors work for me now." Eva stared at his hand like it might be a snake. "I don't understand." "It's simple." His voice was silk over steel. "Your family's debt, all of it, disappears. Your mother receives the best care available for whatever time she has left. You live without fear, without looking over your shoulder. In exchange for what?" His eyes locked onto hers, and Eva saw her future in that gaze. Saw the cage closing even as he spoke the words that would spring the trap. "In exchange, you become my wife." The warehouse around them had gone silent. No more gunfire, no more shouting, just the rain hammering on the metal roof and the sound of Eva's heart trying to hammer its way out of her chest. "That's insane," she breathed. "That's the offer." He didn't lower his hand, didn't blink. "You have approximately 30 seconds before your original collectors track your phone's last known location to this warehouse, at which point your options become significantly less appealing. You're asking me to marry you, a complete stranger, a man who she gestured helplessly at the warehouse, the bodies she couldn't see but knew were there. "A man who just saved your life," he corrected. and will continue to save it every day for as long as you're mine. Mine. The word should have terrified her, should have sent her running back into the rain, back to the devils she knew rather than this devil in a designer suit. But Eva had been running for so long, and she was so tired. I need to know your name, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. If I'm going to marry you, I at least need to know your name. For the first time, something like approval crossed his features. Luciano Moretti. He pronounced it like a sentence, final and absolute. And you, Tesoro, are going to be my wife, whether you take my hand now or I carry you out of here myself. But I'd prefer you chose. That's not a choice. It's the only one you have. Eva looked at his outstretched hand, looked at the shadows of the warehouse, the smoke still curling toward the ceiling, thought of her mother, dying alone because Eva couldn't afford to be at her bedside, thought of the collection agents and their promises of what they'd do to make her pay, thought of a life spent running. And she placed her bandaged hand in his fingers closed around hers, not gentle, not cruel, possessive. Good girl, Luciano Moretti murmured, pulling her to her feet. Now let's go home. As he led her out of the warehouse, Eva Sinclair took one last look at her old life burning behind her. She didn't know it yet, but she was walking into a fire far more dangerous, and she would burn so much brighter than she ever imagined possible. Chapter 1. The Contract Bride. Eva woke to silk sheets and the smell of expensive cologne. For one blissful, disoriented moment, she thought she was dreaming, that the warehouse, the gunfire, the cold-eyed man who'd claimed her like property, all of it was just another nightmare born from exhaustion and fear. Then she moved, and pain lanced through her ribs. Not a dream. She sat up slowly, taking inventory. Her hands were professionally bandaged, the gauze pristine and white. Someone had dressed her in pajamas, soft cotton, modest, nothing like the stained uniform she'd been wearing. The room around her was enormous, all dark wood and muted grays, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over a city she barely recognized from this height. Where am I? The door opened without warning. A woman entered, middle-aged and efficient-looking in a crisp black dress. She carried a breakfast tray, which she set on the bedside table with practiced ease. Good morning, Miss Sinclair. I'm Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper. Mr. Moretti asked me to ensure you were comfortable. Her accent was British, her demeanor unreadable. How are you feeling? Eva stared at her. Like I've been kidnapped. You haven't been kidnapped. Mrs. Chen began opening the curtains, flooding the room with morning light. You're a guest, though I understand the distinction may feel academic at present. Where is he? Mr. Moretti is attending to business. He'll return this evening. She gestured to the tray. You should eat. You're malnourished. The clinical assessment stung with its accuracy. Eva couldn't remember her last real meal. I need to leave. I have work. You no longer work at the diner or the convenience store. Mrs. Chen's tone was matter of fact. M.R. Moretti has settled her obligations with both establishments. Your apartment lease has been terminated, and your belongings are being moved here as we speak. The room tilted. He can't just, that's my life. That was your old life. Mrs. Chen met her gaze steadily. This is your new one. I suggest you eat your breakfast before it gets cold. Dr. Volkov will be here at noon to examine your injuries. She left before Eva could formulate a response. Eva stared at the closed door, then at the breakfast tray. Fresh fruit, perfectly poached eggs, toast with what looked like real butter. The kind of meal she used to fantasize about during her double shifts. Her stomach growled traitorously. No. She wouldn't eat his food, sleep in his bed, play along with whatever sick game this was. Eva threw back the covers and stood, ignoring the protest of her bruised ribs. She was still wearing the modest pajamas someone had dressed her in. The thought of strange hands on her unconscious body made her skin crawl. But they'd do for now. She tried the door. Locked. Of course it was locked. Eva moved to the windows, hope briefly flaring before reality crushed it. They were at least 30 stories up, overlooking what looked like downtown Seattle. The windows didn't open. She could see the locks, industrial grade, the kind designed to prevent exactly what she was thinking. Looking for an exit, Eva spun. Luciano Moretti stood in the doorway, which definitely hadn't been locked from his side, dressed in a different suit, but radiating the same controlled power. In the daylight, he was even more imposing, tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, with shoulders that suggested he was no stranger to violence. "You locked me in," Eva said, hating how her voice shook. "I secured you." He moved into the room with the casual confidence of someone who owned every space he entered, which, Eva supposed, he probably did. "There's a difference." "No, there really isn't." Luciano stopped a few feet away, close enough that Eva could see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes, could smell that cologne again, cedar and something sharper, dangerous. "You didn't eat," he observed, glancing at the untouched tray. "I'm not hungry." "You're lying." He picked up a strawberry, held it out to her. "When was your last meal, Eva?" The use of her first name felt intimate in a way she didn't want to examine. "That's none of your business." "Everything about you is my business now." He didn't lower the strawberry. "Thursday night. You ate half a protein bar during your break at the convenience store. Before that, Wednesday afternoon. Leftover fries a customer didn't finish at the diner." Eva's face burned. "How do you?" "I told you. It's my business to know." He stepped closer, and Eva's back hit the window. "I've been watching you for 3 months, Tesoro. Every shift, every meal you skipped to save money for your mother. Every time you walked home alone at 2 in the morning through neighborhoods where women disappear. That's stalking, creepy, terrifying. Why?" "Because you interested me." He said it like it was simple, like upending someone's entire existence was a reasonable response to interest. "And because I knew, eventually, the Broadfoot would come to collect. I was waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For you to need me." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Eva wanted to be angry, to rage at his presumption, but under the fear and confusion, a traitorous part of her whispered, "He's right. You did need him. You still do." "I want to see my mother," she said instead. Something shifted in Luciano's expression. Not quite softness, but a easing of the hard edges. "She's being moved to Sacred Heart's hospice wing. Private room, 24-hour nursing care. The best palliative specialists on the West Coast." He finally ate the strawberry he'd been holding, his gaze never leaving hers. "You can visit her this afternoon, after Dr. Volkov clears you." "And if I refuse? If I just walk out?" "You won't." The certainty in his voice made her stomach clench. "You're that sure of yourself?" "I'm that sure of you." Luciano reached out, and Eva flinched. He paused, then slowly, deliberately, touched her cheek. His fingers were warm, surprisingly gentle. "You won't leave your mother alone. Won't risk her losing the care I'm providing. And you're too smart to go back to running, knowing the Broadfoot would find you within hours. So I'm trapped. You're protected." His thumb brushed her jaw, and Eva hated how her breath caught. "There's a difference." "You keep saying that." "Because you keep refusing to see it." He dropped his hand, stepped back. "Get dressed. There's a wardrobe full of clothes in your size. We have an appointment at 11. "What kind of appointment?" "We're getting married." Eva's knees almost gave out. "Today." "You can't. We can't." "We can, and we will." Luciano headed for the door, pausing at the threshold. "Marriage license has been expedited. Judge is waiting at the courthouse. You have 1 hour to make yourself presentable." "And if I refuse?" He turned back, and the look in his eyes froze the protest in her throat. "Then I'll carry you there in your pajamas." "Your choice, Eva. But we are getting married today. That was decided the moment you took my hand in that warehouse." The door closed behind him with a soft click. Eva stood in the center of the room, surrounded by luxury she'd never imagined. wearing clothes someone else had chosen, about to marry a man who'd purchased her like an asset. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, she walked to the wardrobe and started looking for something appropriate to wear to her own wedding. The courthouse was everything Eva's childhood fantasies of marriage were not. No white dress, though the cream-colored sheath Luciano's people had provided fit her perfectly, disturbingly so. No flowers, no music, no family. Just a judge who looked like he'd seen too many shotgun weddings to be surprised by anything, a court clerk who barely glanced up from his phone, and two witnesses Eva had never met, and Luciano, standing beside her in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her mother's original debt, looking for all the world like this was a normal Tuesday. Do you, Eva Marie Sinclair, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Eva's mouth was dry. She could feel Luciano's presence beside her, solid and immovable, could feel the weight of the choice that wasn't really a choice pressing down on her shoulders. You can still run, a voice whispered in her head. Scream. Make a scene. Tell the judge you're being coerced. But Luciano wasn't holding her there, wasn't touching her at all. And when she glanced at him, his expression was calm, expectant, waiting, giving you the choice, that same voice whispered. Even though you both know what you'll choose. Eva thought of her mother, finally resting comfortably in a private room, thought of the collection agents and their promises, thought of the warehouse and the casual way Luciano had wrapped her bleeding hands, like violence and care were two sides of the same coin. I do, she heard herself say. The judge turned to Luciano. And do you, Luciano Dante Moretti, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. No hesitation. No doubt. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Eva's heart stopped. Luciano turned to her, and for a moment, she saw something flicker in those gray eyes. Permission, maybe. Or warning. Then his hand came up to cup her jaw, tilting her face up, and he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't sweet or romantic or any of the things a first kiss should be. It was possession, pure and simple. Acclaiming, his mouth moved over hers with practiced expertise, drawing a response from her body even as her mind screamed that this was wrong. Wrong, wrong. He pulled back, and Eva realized she'd been gripping the lapels of his suit. Congratulations, the judge said, already gathering his papers. Marriage certificate will be mailed to your residence. And just like that, it was done. Eva Sinclair no longer existed. In her place stood Eva Moretti, wife to one of the most dangerous men in Seattle. The drive back to the penthouse was silent. Luciano made a phone call in rapid Italian, his tone clipped and businesslike. Eva stared out the window at the city that suddenly felt foreign, wondering if she'd made a deal with the devil or been saved by him. Or both, that traitor's voice whispered. We're making a stop, Luciano said, ending his call. Where? Sacred Heart. You wanted to see your mother. Something in Eva's chest cracked. She'd expected him to dangle her mother like a carrot, to make her beg or earn the privilege of a visit. The fact that he'd simply arranged it, without ceremony or conditions, confused her. Thank you, she said quietly. He glanced at her, expression unreadable. She's family now. My family. I take care of what's mine. Mine again. That word he used so casually, so absolutely. Sacred Heart's hospice wing was everything the county facility wasn't. Quiet, clean, with soft lighting and staff that actually looked at patients like people. Eva's mother had a corner room with windows overlooking a garden, which was more than Eva had dared to hope for. I'll wait here, Luciano said, stopping outside the room. Eva hesitated, her hand on the door. You don't have to. I mean, you could come in, if you want. This time is yours. Something almost gentle crossed his features. Take as long as you need. Her mother was sleeping, looking smaller than Eva remembered. The harsh lines of pain that had been carved into her face for months had softened, and for a moment, Eva could see the woman her mother had been before the addiction, before the debt. Hi, Mom, Eva whispered, taking her hand. Her mother's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then slowly clearing. Eva? Baby, what are you doing here? The hospital said. They said someone paid. Confusion clouded her features. I don't understand. It's okay. Everything's okay now. The lie tasted bitter. Someone helped us. Who? Eva, you didn't. Fear sharpened her voice. Tell me you didn't do something stupid. I married a stranger, a criminal, a man who kills people and calls it business. I did what I had to do, Eva said. You're safe now. That's all that matters. Her mother's fingers tightened on hers. Your father used to say that, right before every bad decision he ever made. Her eyes were suddenly lucid, piercing. What did it cost you, baby? Eva couldn't answer. Couldn't put into words the price she'd paid, was still paying. I'm sorry, her mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I ruined your life. No. Eva squeezed her hand. You didn't. I promise, Mom. I'm okay. Better than okay. Another lie. They talked for an hour, Eva carefully editing every detail of the past 24 hours, painting a picture of sudden good fortune rather than the cage she'd walked into. Her mother drifted in and out of sleep, the medications making her drowsy, but she smiled more than Eva had seen in months. When Eva finally left the room, she found Luciano leaning against the far wall, scrolling through his phone. He looked up as she approached. How is she? Better. Comfortable. Eva's throat tightened. Thank you. For this. I told you. I take care of what's mine. He pocketed his phone, studying her with that unnerving intensity. You did well. The lies came naturally. Eva stiffened. You were listening. I'm always listening. He said it without apology. Part of keeping you safe is knowing everything. That's not safety. That's surveillance. In my world, they're the same thing. He gestured toward the elevator. Come, we have dinner reservations. I'm not hungry. Yes, you are, and we have appearances to maintain. His hand settled on the small of her back, guiding her forward. As of today, you're my wife. That comes with certain expectations. Eva wanted to shake off his touch, but the warmth of it was oddly grounding. Or maybe she was just that starved for human contact that even a possessive hand felt like connection. What kind of expectations? The kind that keep you alive, Luciano said. My enemies will be watching Eva, looking for weakness. You need to appear, he paused, considering his words. Content. Protected. Mine. There was that word again. So I'm supposed to play the happy wife? You're supposed to play the smart wife who understands the rules of the game she's entered. They stepped into the elevator, and Luciano pressed the button for the ground floor. Smile at the right people. Stay close to me in public. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. And if I break the rules, the elevator doors closed, sealing them in together. Luciano turned to her, and in the confined space, he seemed even larger, more dangerous. Then I'll have to remind you why you agreed to this marriage. His hand came up to her face again, fingers tracing her jawline with a gentleness that contradicted his words. And neither of us will enjoy that conversation. You're threatening me. I'm warning you. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. There's a difference. Eva shivered and hated herself for it. The elevator reached the ground floor with a soft chime. Luciano stepped back, his hand returning to the small of her back as the doors opened. Now, he said, his tone shifting to something almost pleasant. Let's go have dinner. My wife must be starving. And because he was right about her hunger, about the trap she'd walked into, about everything, Eva let him guide her out into the fading daylight, into her new life as Mrs. Moretti, where the line between protection and possession was so blurred, she wasn't sure it existed at all. Chapter 2, A Marriage Built on Power. The restaurant was the kind of place Eva had only seen in magazines. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light over white tablecloths and silver that gleamed like jewelry. A pianist played something classical in the corner, the notes floating through air perfumed with expensive wine and herbs she couldn't name. Every other patron looked like they belonged. Women in designer dresses, men in suits that cost more than Eva's entire wardrobe had before this morning, before Luciano had replaced everything she owned. "You're staring," Luciano said quietly, not looking up from the wine list. Eva jerked her gaze back to the table. "I've never been anywhere like this." "I know." He ordered something in Italian to the hovering waiter, who nodded and disappeared. "That's why we're here. To show me what I've been missing. To show everyone else what's mine." There it was again. That word that made her stomach clench and her pulse quicken in ways she didn't want to examine. The waiter returned with wine, red, dark as blood in the crystal glasses. Luciano raised his in a toast. "To my wife," he said, loud enough that nearby tables could hear. "The most beautiful woman in Seattle." Eva's face burned. She could feel eyes turning toward them, appraising, judging, wondering who she was and how she'd caught the attention of Luciano Moretti. "Drink," Luciano murmured, his voice dropping to something only she could hear. "And smile. You're supposed to be happy." "I don't know how to do this," Eva whispered back. "Then learn." But his tone wasn't cruel, almost patient. "Watch me. Follow my lead. It's just another role to play. Just another role." Like her life was a script he'd written and she was expected to perform. Eva lifted her glass, let the wine touch her lips. It was good, better than anything she'd ever tasted, but it sat heavy in her stomach. Everything about this moment felt surreal, like she was watching herself from a distance. "Mr. Moretti." A man approached their table, older, silver-haired, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Congratulations on your marriage. I heard the news." "Word travels fast," Luciano said smoothly, standing to shake the man's hand. "Eva, this is Marcus Crane. He owns several import businesses on the waterfront." Import businesses. Eva had learned enough about Luciano's world to know that probably meant drugs, weapons, or worse. "A pleasure," Marcus said, his gaze sliding over Eva like she was merchandise. "You're a lucky woman, Mrs. Moretti." "Thank you," Eva managed, the name still foreign on her tongue. "And you, Luciano, are a lucky man. Where did you find such a rare beauty?" "I didn't find her." Luciano's hand settled on Eva's shoulder, possessive and warm. "I claimed her." The words sent a shiver through her. Marcus laughed, but there was something calculating in his expression. "Of course. Well, I won't keep you from your dinner. But we should talk soon about the shipment." "Monday," Luciano said. "My office." Marcus nodded and left. The moment he was gone, Luciano's hand tightened slightly on Eva's shoulder, a warning or reassurance. She couldn't tell. "You did well," he said, sitting back down. "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You let me handle it. That's what I need from you in public." He picked up his wine again. Silence, when appropriate. Smiles. The appearance of contentment. And in private, something flickered in his gray eyes. In private, you can be as difficult as you like. It might even be entertaining. The food arrived before Eva could respond, courses she couldn't name, each more elaborate than the last. Luciano ate with the ease of someone accustomed to luxury, while Eva struggled with which fork to use, hyper-aware of her inadequacy. "Stop overthinking," Luciano said after watching her fumble with her salad fork. "No one's judging you but yourself. Everyone's looking at us. They're looking at me. You're just the beautiful mystery I married without warning." He leaned back, studying her with that unnerving intensity. "Tell me something about yourself that I don't already know. You said you've been watching me for 3 months. What could you possibly not know? I know your routines, your habits, what you do." His head tilted slightly. "I don't know who you are." The distinction caught Eva off guard. She set down her fork, meeting his gaze. "Does it matter?" To me? Yes. Why? Because you're my wife, and I make it a point to know what I own. There was that word again, but this time, Eva heard something else beneath it. Curiosity, maybe, or the beginning of something that wasn't just possession. I wanted to be a teacher, she heard herself say. Before everything fell apart, elementary school, I was good with kids. Luciano's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. Why didn't you? No money for college. My mother got sick, then worse. The debts started piling up. Eva shrugged, trying to make it casual. Dreams are expensive. They don't have to be, says the man who can buy anything. I wasn't always this man, Luciano said quietly. I was born in Naples. My father was a fisherman who died when I was 8. My mother cleaned houses for rich tourists. We lived in a 2-room apartment with no heat. Eva stared at him, surprised by the admission. How did you become this? He gestured at the restaurant, the suit, the life he'd built. I made choices, some good, most necessary. I learned that power is the only thing that protects you in this world. Everything else is an illusion. That's a lonely way to live. Loneliness is better than vulnerability. He took a sip of wine. But I didn't tell you that story to gain your sympathy. I told you so you'd understand something important. What? I know what it's like to be powerless, to watch someone you love suffer because you can't afford to save them. His gaze locked onto hers. I'll never be powerless again, and neither will you, as long as you're mine. The promise in those words should have comforted her. Instead, it felt like another chain. What if I don't want to be yours? Then you're lying to yourself. Luciano set down his glass. You took my hand in that warehouse, Eva. You said, I do, in that courthouse. You can pretend you had no choice, but we both know that's not entirely true. You manipulated the situation. I provided an option you wouldn't have had otherwise. That's not manipulation. That's opportunity. Wrapped in a cage. The cage is for your protection. His voice dropped, dangerous and soft. There are men in this city who would destroy you for the simple pleasure of hurting me, who would use you as leverage, as a weapon. The only way to keep you safe is to make it clear that touching you means death. Eva's mouth went dry. You're talking about killing people. I'm talking about consequences. He leaned forward, close enough that she could see the gray flecks in his eyes, smell his cologne. Do you think I'm a good man, Eva? She wanted to lie, to say yes, or at least avoid the question. But something about the way he looked at her demanded honesty. No. Good. He didn't seem offended. I'm not. I've done terrible things, and I'll do more before I'm done. But I'm a man of my word, and I promise to protect you. That's not negotiable. Even if I don't want your protection, especially then. The waiter appeared with dessert, something chocolate and decadent that Eva couldn't bring herself to taste. Her appetite had vanished, replaced by a knot of confusion and something she refused to name as attraction, because she couldn't be attracted to him. To this cold, dangerous man who bought her like property and spoke of murder with the same tone others used to discuss the weather. But her body didn't care about logic, didn't care that he terrified her. It only knew that when he looked at her with those intense gray eyes, something in her responded. We should go, Luciano said, signing for the check without looking at it. You're exhausted. I'm fine. You're swaying in your seat, and you barely ate. He stood, offering his hand. Come, the car's waiting. Eva took his hand because refusing would cause a scene, because she was tired, so tired she could barely think straight, because some part of her was starting to understand that fighting Luciano Moretti was like fighting the tide. You could struggle all you wanted, but eventually you'd drown or learn to swim. The penthouse was dark when they arrived, only the city lights filtering through the massive windows. Luciano led her inside, his hand never leaving the small of her back. Your room is prepared, he said. Or Eva stopped, turned to face him. Or what? Or you could stay with me. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Why would I do that? Because we're married. Because people will expect it. Because he stepped closer, backing her against the wall without touching her. Because you're curious. I'm not. Don't lie. His hand came up to brace against the wall beside her head. I can see it in your eyes. The fear, yes. But also the wondering. What would it be like to give in, to stop fighting? Eva's breath came short. He was too close, too overwhelming. She could feel the heat of his body, the controlled power in the way he held himself. This isn't real, she whispered. This marriage, whatever this is between us, it's not real. It's as real as we make it. His other hand touched her jaw, tilting her face up. I didn't lie in that courthouse, Eva. I took vows, and I meant them. You're keeping me prisoner. I'm keeping you alive. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and Eva hated how her breath caught. There's a difference. You keep saying that, because you keep refusing to understand it. He leaned closer, his lips a breath away from hers. I could make you understand, could make you feel exactly how real this is. Then why don't you? The challenge surprised her as much as it seemed to surprise him. Luciano's eyes darkened, his jaw tightening. Because when I take you to bed, Eva, it won't be because you're confused or scared or trying to prove a point. His voice was rough, strained. It will be because you're begging me for it. Heat flooded through her, shocking in its intensity. Eva wanted to be angry, to slap him for his arrogance. But her body was betraying her, responding to his proximity, his words, the dark promise in his eyes. I'll never beg you for anything, she said. We'll see. He pushed away from the wall, stepping back. Your room is the second door on the left. Everything you need is already there. And you? I'll be in my office, working. He loosened his tie, and Eva watched the movement with fascination she couldn't suppress. Try to sleep. Tomorrow, we have a reception. A reception. For the family. To introduce you properly. Something almost like amusement crossed his features. Consider it your debut into Seattle's underworld. That's not funny. It's not meant to be. He headed toward a door at the far end of the living room. Good night, wife. Sweet dreams. He left her standing there, heart racing, body trembling with a mixture of fear and something far more dangerous. Eva found her room, or rather, her prison disguised as luxury. The bed was enormous, covered in silk sheets that probably cost more than her old apartment's monthly rent. Her clothes were already unpacked, organized in a walk-in closet that was bigger than her old bedroom. Everything she could want, except freedom. She showered in the marble bathroom, trying to wash away the day, the feeling of Luciano's eyes on her, the memory of his thumb on her lip. But the hot water only made her skin more sensitive, more aware. By the time she crawled into bed, Eva was exhausted but wired, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. 24 hours ago, she'd been running for her life. Now she was lying in silk sheets, wearing designer pajamas, married to a man who spoke of protection and possession like they were the same thing. She closed her eyes, trying to find sleep. Instead, she found herself wondering what it would be like if she'd taken Luciano up on his offer, if she'd followed him to his room instead of her own, if she'd stopped fighting and given in to the dangerous attraction she refused to acknowledge. It will be because you're begging me for it. Eva pulled the covers over her head, mortified by the heat those words sent through her. This was wrong. All of it. She shouldn't feel anything for Luciano Moretti except fear and resentment. But as she finally drifted off to sleep, Eva couldn't shake the truth she didn't want to face. Fear and desire weren't always opposites. Sometimes they were two sides of the same coin, and she was starting to understand why that was the most dangerous combination of all. Chapter 3. The House of Secrets. Eva woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the disorienting realization that she was Mrs. Luciano Moretti. The thought felt no more real than it had yesterday. She found coffee waiting in the kitchen, freshly brewed, still hot, along with a note in sharp, angular handwriting. Had to leave early. Security detail is outside your door. Don't try to leave without them. Reception is at 7 p.m. Dress accordingly. Eva crumpled the note, irritation flaring. Even his notes were commands. But the coffee was good, and she was too tired to fight invisible battles this early. She poured a cup and wandered through the penthouse, seeing it properly for the first time in daylight. It was beautiful in a cold, impersonal way. All clean lines and expensive art, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. No photos, no personal touches, just wealth and power on display. Like Luciano himself, Eva found herself drawn to a door she hadn't noticed last night. Dark wood, slightly ajar. An office, maybe. She glanced at the front door, where she could sense the security detail Luciano had mentioned, then back at the office. Don't. But curiosity was a harder master than fear. She pushed the door open. The room was indeed an office, massive desk, leather chairs, walls lined with bookshelves. But it was the photos that caught her attention. Framed pictures on the credenza, the only personal items she'd seen in the entire penthouse. Eva moved closer, studying them. A young Luciano, maybe 12 or 13, standing beside a small woman with kind eyes and work-worn hands. His mother, Eva guessed. The boy in the photo looked different, softer, not yet hardened by whatever had made him into the man she'd married. Another photo showed Luciano older, early 20s maybe, flanked by two other men. Brothers in all but blood, judging by their easy camaraderie. All three wore suits, but there was something raw in their expressions. Hungry, dangerous. The third photo made her stomach clench. A woman, beautiful, dark-haired, laughing at something off camera. She wore a ring on her left hand, an engagement ring. Eva realized with a jolt. Luciano had been engaged before. You're not supposed to be in here. Eva spun, hard hammering. Luciano stood in the doorway, still in his suit from last night, looking like he hadn't slept. His expression was unreadable, but there was something sharp in his eyes. The door was open, Eva said, defensive. That doesn't make it an invitation. He moved into the room with that predatory grace she was starting to recognize. What are you looking at? Eva gestured to the photos. Your past. A version of it. He picked up the frame with his mother, studying it with something that might have been grief. She died when I was 16. Cancer. We couldn't afford treatment. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me an important lesson. He set the photo down carefully. Money isn't everything. It's the only thing. That's cynical. That's reality. His gaze moved to the photo of the three young men. Marco and Dante. My brothers, for all intents and purposes. We built this empire together. Where are they now? Marco runs our operations in Portland. Dante handles enforcement. The casual way he said it made Eva's skin crawl. They'll be at the reception tonight. You'll meet them. Eva picked up the photo of the woman, unable to stop herself. And her? Luciano's expression went carefully blank. That's none of your concern. She was engaged to you. Was. Past tense. He took the frame from Eva's hands, his fingers brushing hers. That part of my life is over. What happened to her? Eva. His voice held a warning. Let it go. But she couldn't. Some self-destructive part of her needed to know, needed to understand what had happened to the last woman who'd been in her position. Did you love her? Luciano's jaw tightened. For a moment, Eva thought he might not answer. Then, I thought I did. I was 25 and stupid enough to believe love mattered more than loyalty. What does that mean? It means she chose her family over me. When the war started, she went back to them. Married someone else. He set the photo face down on the desk. I learned my lesson. Love is a weakness. Possession is power. The words should have frightened her. Instead, Eva felt something like pity for the young man in those photos, before life had carved away everything soft. Is that why you chose me? She asked quietly. Because I have no family to choose? No one to run back to? Luciano's eyes met hers, and the intensity in them stole her breath. I chose you because you're strong enough to survive this world, and because he stopped himself, jaw tightening. Get dressed. Mrs. Chen will help you prepare for tonight. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. He headed for the door, then paused. And Eva, stay out of my office unless I invite you. Some secrets are better left alone. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Eva stared at the face-down photo frame, mind spinning. What had Luciano almost said? And why did the unfinished sentence feel more revealing than anything he'd actually told her? Mrs. Chen arrived at noon with an army of people, a stylist, makeup artist, and someone whose only job seemed to be choosing jewelry. Mr. Moretti wants you perfect, Mrs. Chen said, supervising the chaos. Tonight is important. You'll be meeting the families. Families? The other organizations. The Volkovs, the Chens, the Castellanos. She said it like Eva should know these names. They need to see that Mr. Moretti's marriage isn't a weakness, that you're an asset, not a liability. I'm a person, Eva muttered. Mrs. Chen's expression softened slightly. In this world, you're what they perceive you to be. Strength, beauty, composure, these are your weapons. Use them well. The stylist dressed her in a gown that probably cost more than a year of Eva's old salary. Deep emerald silk that clung to her curves before flowing into a dramatic skirt. The makeup artist worked magic, transforming her from exhausted to luminous. The jewelry specialist draped her in diamonds that felt like shackles made of light. When Eva finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Perfect, Mrs. Chen pronounced. Mr. Moretti will be pleased. Eva wanted to say she didn't care about pleasing Luciano, but the flutter in her stomach when she thought about his reaction suggested otherwise. He was waiting in the living room when she emerged, and the look in his eyes when he saw her made her breath catch. You're stunning, he said simply, like it was fact rather than compliment. It's the dress. It's you. He moved closer, and Eva noticed he changed into a fresh suit, black, perfectly tailored, making him look even more dangerous than usual. Ready? No. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He offered his arm. Stay close to me. Don't answer questions about our relationship. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, tell me immediately. What will you do? Whatever's necessary. The promise in his voice was dark and absolute. You're mine to protect, Eva. That means I'll burn this city down before I let anyone hurt you. The declaration should have terrified her. Instead, it sent a shiver of something dangerously close to excitement down her spine. The reception was held at an estate that made Luciano's penthouse look modest. Sprawling grounds, a mansion that belonged in a European castle catalog, and security that barely tried to hide their weapons. Whose house is this? Eva whispered as they walked toward the entrance. Mine. One of several. Luciano's hand settled on the small of her back, possessive and warm. I wanted home field advantage. Inside was even more impressive. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a ballroom filled with people who looked like they could buy and sell countries. Eva's stomach twisted with nerves. Breathe, Luciano murmured against her ear. You're my wife. That makes you untouchable. What if I embarrass you? Impossible. You're perfect. He said it with such certainty that Eva almost believed him. Then the vultures descended. Luciano, congratulations. A man approached, tall and silver-haired with eyes like a shark. You've been keeping secrets. Victor. Luciano's tone was pleasant but cold. Allow me to introduce my wife, Eva. Victor Volkov, Eva realized. One of the Russians Luciano had mentioned. His gaze crawled over her like an insult. Beautiful. Where did you find her? That's not your concern. Luciano's hand tightened on her waist. She's family now. That's all you need to know. Of course, of course. Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I meant no offense. simply curious about the woman who finally caught the uncatchable Luciano Moretti. Curiosity can be dangerous, Luciano said softly. The threat was clear. Victor's smile widened, but he backed away with a nod. The night continued in a blur of introductions, each one more uncomfortable than the last. Men who looked at Eva like she was property. Women who assessed her with barely concealed jealousy or pity, all of them circling, probing for weakness. You're doing well, Luciano murmured during a rare moment alone. Better than I expected. I'm terrified. I know, but you're not showing it. That's what matters. He handed her a glass of champagne. Drink. It helps. Eva took a sip, grateful for something to do with her hands. How long do we have to stay? Until I've made my point. He gestured subtly at the room. See how they're watching, trying to figure out if you're a weakness they can exploit? And am I? No. His gaze locked on hers, intense and possessive. You're my strength. They just don't know it yet. Before Eva could respond, a woman approached, stunning in a way that made Eva feel ordinary despite the designer gown and diamonds. Dark hair, sharp features, eyes like chips of ice. Luciano. Her voice was smooth, cultured. How unexpected. A marriage. Luciano's entire body tensed. Isabella, the woman from the photo. Eva recognized her instantly, even though she was older now, harder. This was the fiancée who'd chosen family over love. Aren't you going to introduce us? Isabella's smile was razor sharp. Eva, this is Isabella Castellano, an old acquaintance. The pause before acquaintance said everything. Isabella, my wife, Eva. Charming. Isabella's gaze raked over Eva, dismissive. How long have you been together? Long enough, Luciano said before Eva could answer. Really? Because I heard you met just days ago. Isabella tilted her head. A whirlwind romance? Or something more practical? Eva felt Luciano's hand tighten on her waist, felt the coiled tension in his body. She knew she should stay quiet, let him handle this. But something in Isabella's smug expression made anger override caution. Does it matter? Eva asked, proud of how steady her voice was. We are married now. Whatever you and Luciano had is in the past. Isabella's eyes flashed. Confident. How refreshing. She turned to Luciano. She doesn't know, does she, about what happened? That's enough. Luciano's voice was lethal. Walk away, Isabella. Now. Or what? You'll do to me what you did to my brother. Isabella's smile was vicious. Oh, did you not tell your new wife about that? About how you? I said enough. Luciano stepped between them, blocking Eva from Isabella's view. You have 10 seconds to leave before I forget we have history. Isabella laughed, but there was something brittle in it. Still the same Luciano, all control, no heart. She glanced at Eva one more time. Good luck, darling. You're going to need it. She disappeared into the crowd, leaving tension thick enough to choke on. What was she talking about? Eva asked quietly. What happened to her brother? Luciano's jaw was tight, his eyes hard. Not here. Not now. Then when? When I decide you're ready to hear it. He took her hand, his grip almost painful. Come, we're leaving. The reception is over. For us, anyway. He led her toward the exit, moving through the crowd with single-minded determination. In the car, silence stretched between them like broken glass. Eva stared at Luciano's profile, at the muscle ticking in his jaw, the white-knuckle grip on his knee. You killed her brother, she said. Not a question. Yes. The admission was so blunt it stole her breath. Why? Because he betrayed me. Sold information to the Volkovs that got 12 of my men killed. Luciano turned to her, and the cold fury in his eyes made her shiver. I gave him a chance to explain. He ran, so I hunted him down and put a bullet in his head. Eva should have been horrified, should have demanded he take her somewhere. anywhere away from this man who spoke of murder like business. Instead, she heard herself ask, did Isabella know what he did? Something flickered across Luciano's expression, surprise, maybe, or approval. She knew, chose to believe his lies over my truth. And you still loved her after that? No. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. I stopped loving her the moment she chose them over me. Love doesn't survive betrayal, Eva. It just pretends to, until the corpse starts to stink. The poetry of violence in his words was almost beautiful. Almost. Is that what you'll do to me? Eva whispered. If I betray you. Luciano lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that felt like both promise and threat. You won't betray me. How do you know? Because you have nowhere else to go. And because, he paused, something vulnerable flickering across his features before he locked it down. Because I'm going to make sure you never want to. The car pulled up to the penthouse. Luciano helped her out, his hand never leaving hers as they rode the elevator in charged silence. At the door to her room, he stopped. Get some rest, he said, voice rough. Tomorrow, I'll show you the rest of your new life. What if I don't want it? Then you'll learn to. He touched her face, thumb brushing her cheek with surprising gentleness. I told you, Eva, you're mine. That means I don't let go. Ever. He left her there, trembling with a mixture of fear and something far more dangerous. Inside her room, Eva stripped off the expensive gown and jewelry, trying to shed the night like a second skin. But as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't stop thinking about Luciano's words. I'm going to make sure you never want to leave. Not a threat, a promise. And the terrifying part was how much Eva wanted to believe he could keep it. Chapter 4. The War Outside. The fire inside. Eva woke to the sound of shouting. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was dreaming. Another nightmare about the warehouse, the gunfire, the night that had changed everything. Then she heard glass shattering, footsteps running, and Luciano's voice cutting through the chaos with lethal precision. Get her to the safe room. Now. Her door burst open. Not Luciano, one of his security detail, a man she vaguely recognized from the reception. His weapon was drawn, his expression grim. Mrs. Moretti, we need to move. Eva's heart hammered against her ribs. What's happening? No time. Come with me. He grabbed her arm, pulling her from the bed. Eva stumbled after him in her pajamas, barefoot, mind still foggy with sleep. They moved through the penthouse, no longer peaceful and cold, but alive with dangerous energy. More men with guns. Broken glass from the windows. And blood, a trail of it leading toward the living room. Luciano, Eva started, is handling it. Move. The security guard pushed open a door Eva had never noticed, hidden in the wall paneling, leading to a narrow stairwell. He shoved her inside, and she heard the locks engage with a heavy mechanical click. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone but Mr. Moretti. Wait. But he was already gone, the door sealing her in darkness. Eva's hands found a light switch. The room that illuminated was small, concrete, with a cot, bottled water, and what looked like enough supplies to survive for weeks. A safe room, just like the guard had said. A cage disguised as protection. She could still hear sounds from outside, muffled but distinct. Gunfire. Not the single shots from the warehouse, but sustained bursts. An assault. Someone was attacking Luciano's home, and she was trapped in here, helpless. This is your life now, a voice whispered in her head. Violence and fear, running and hiding. Eva sank onto the cot, wrapping her arms around herself. How long had she been asleep? An hour? 2? The reception felt like days ago, though it had only been last night. She could still see Isabella's smug expression, hear Luciano's cold confession about murder. I put a bullet in his head. And now someone was trying to do the same to him. Time moved strangely in the safe room. Minutes felt like hours. Eva counted her breaths, trying to stay calm, trying not to imagine what was happening outside, trying not to picture Luciano bleeding, dying, leaving her trapped in this concrete box. Why do you care? That voice asked. He kidnapped you, bought you, trapped you in this life. But Eva knew why she cared, knew it with a certainty that terrified her. Because somewhere between the warehouse and last night, between fear and fury, she'd started to see Luciano as more than her captor. Started to see the man beneath the monster. The boy who'd lost his mother. The man betrayed by the woman he'd loved. The person who'd promised to protect her, and meant it. The gunfire stopped. Silence fell, heavy and ominous. Eva pressed her ear to the door, straining to hear anything. Footsteps, voices, something to tell her what was happening. Nothing. Then, a knock, 3 short raps. Eva. Luciano's voice, rough and strained. Open the door. Her hands shook as she worked the locks. The mechanisms were complex, designed to only open from the inside. By the time she got the door open, tears were streaming down her face, though from relief or fear, she couldn't tell. Luciano stood in the doorway, and Eva's breath caught. He was covered in blood. Not specks, not stains, covered. His white shirt was nearly black with it, his face spattered, his hands slick and red. He swayed slightly, catching himself against the doorframe. You're hurt, Eva heard herself say. I'm fine. You're lying. She reached for him, and he flinched back. Let me see. It's not all mine. But his voice was weak, and when he tried to step forward, his legs gave out. Eva caught him, or tried to. He was too heavy, too tall. They went down together, Luciano's weight pinning her against the wall of the safe room. Up close, she could see the wound, a deep gash across his ribs, still bleeding. The bullet had grazed him, not penetrated, but it was bad enough. We need to call a doctor, Eva said, trying to keep her voice steady. No doctors. Can't trust. He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. Can't trust anyone right now. Then what do I do? His eyes focused on her, gray and intense even through the pain. Help me upstairs. Medical supplies in my bathroom. You'll have to. Another cough. You'll have to do it yourself. I'm not a nurse. You're all I have right now. His hand found hers, grip weak but insistent. Please, Eva. I need you. The vulnerability in those words, the raw need, broke something in her. This was Luciano Moretti, the man who commanded armies, who spoke of murder like business, and he was asking her for help. Begging, almost. Okay, Eva whispered. Okay, I'll help you. Getting him upstairs was a nightmare. Luciano tried to support his own weight, but every step made him wince, made fresh blood seep through his ruined shirt. Eva wrapped his arm around her shoulders, half carrying, half dragging him toward his bedroom. She'd never been inside before. It was as impersonal as the rest of the penthouse, black and gray, expensive but empty. The bathroom, though, was stocked like a field hospital. Bandages, antiseptic, surgical supplies that made Eva's stomach turn. What the hell kind of life do you live? She muttered, pulling out gauze and tape, a dangerous one. Luciano leaned against the sink, trying to stay upright. But you knew that already. Knowing it and seeing it are different things. Eva's hands were shaking as she helped him out of his shirt. The blood made the fabric stick, and Luciano hissed as she peeled it away. The wound was worse than she'd thought. Not life-threatening, maybe, but deep and ugly. The bullet had carved a furrow across his ribs, splitting skin and muscle. It needed stitches. Needed a real doctor. I can't do this, Eva said, panic rising. Yes, you can. Luciano's hand covered hers, steadying the tremor. You're stronger than you think. I'm terrified. I know. Do it anyway. He guided her hand to the antiseptic. Clean it first. Then the butterfly bandages. Those will hold better than stitches right now. Eva worked mechanically, trying not to think about what she was doing, trying not to feel the way Luciano tensed under her touch, the way his breath came short with pain. She'd never been this close to him, never touched him like this, never seen him vulnerable. Who did this? She asked, needing to focus on something other than the blood. Volkov. Luciano's jaw tightened. Victor. He decided my marriage was a sign of weakness. Thought he could take me out while I was distracted. Was he right? About me being distracted? Luciano's eyes met hers. Yes. I was thinking about you when they breached the perimeter, wondering if you were sleeping, if you were safe. Eva's hands stilled. Don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. He caught her wrist, holding her in place. I've killed 11 men tonight, Eva. 11. And all I could think about was getting to you, making sure you were protected. That's the blood loss talking. That's the truth talking. His thumb traced circles on her inner wrist, and Eva realized her pulse was racing. I told you, you're mine. That means protecting you comes before everything, even my own safety. That's insane. That's love. The word hung between them, impossible and terrifying. Eva's breath caught. You don't love me. You can't. We barely know each other. I know everything about you. Luciano's grip tightened. I know you wanted to be a teacher, that you take your coffee black because you can't afford cream, that you cry when you think no one's watching, that you're afraid of thunderstorms and scared of the dark and terrified of being alone. Each fact hit like a revelation, like an invasion. That's not love, Eva whispered. That's obsession. Maybe there's no difference. He pulled her closer until she was standing between his legs, until she could feel the heat of his body through her thin pajamas. Maybe love is just obsession we justify to ourselves. You're hurt, delirious. Eva tried to pull away, but he held firm. I'm clear-headed for the first time in years. His free hand came up to cup her face, and despite the blood and violence, his touch was gentle. I've been watching you, wanting you, planning for you. And tonight, when Volkov's men came, all that mattered was you. Not revenge, not power. You. Stop. Eva's voice cracked. Please stop. Why? Because you feel it too? His thumb brushed her lower lip, and Eva's breath stuttered. Because you were just as scared for me as I was for you? She wanted to deny it. Wanted to push him away and run back to her room and pretend this moment wasn't happening. But Luciano was right. She had been scared. Terrified. Not for herself. She'd been safe in the panic room, but for him. I hate you, she whispered, and it sounded like a lie even to her own ears. I know. Luciano smiled, and it was sad and knowing and devastatingly beautiful. Hate me all you want. I'm still not letting you go. He pulled her down, and Eva didn't resist. Their lips met, not gentle like their wedding kiss, but desperate and raw. He tasted like blood and smoke and something darker, more dangerous. Eva's hands tangled in his hair, and she hated herself for kissing him back, for wanting this, for needing the proof that he was alive. Luciano groaned against her mouth, and Eva remembered the wound. She pulled back, horrified. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt. Don't apologize. His eyes were dark, hungry. Do it again. You're bleeding. I don't care. He tried to pull her back, but Eva stepped away, shaking her head. No, you need to rest. And I need space, air, time to figure out what the hell I'm doing. I need to finish bandaging you. Luciano watched her with eyes that saw too much. You're running. I'm being sensible. You're scared of what just happened. Of course I'm scared. Eva's voice rose, all the fear and confusion of the night spilling over. You almost died. Men broke into your home and tried to kill you, and I was locked in a concrete box, helpless. And now you're bleeding and talking about love, and I can't process this. Then don't. Luciano's voice was soft, understanding in a way that was somehow worse than anger. Just be here, with me, for tonight, and tomorrow. Tomorrow, We deal with Volkov. We handle the consequences. We go back to the roles we're supposed to play. He held out his hand. But tonight, I'm just a man who almost died, and you're just a woman who was afraid for me. Can that be enough? It should have been a trap. Should have been another way to manipulate her, to make her dependent on him. But the look in Luciano's eyes was so raw, so honest, that Eva couldn't convince herself it was anything but real. She took his hand. Just for tonight, she whispered. Just for tonight, he agreed, pulling her close. Eva finished bandaging his wounds with trembling hands. Luciano watched her the entire time, his gaze heavy and warm. When she was done, he didn't let her leave. Stay, he said simply. Please. In your room? In my bed. He saw her expression and shook his head. Just to sleep. I need. He paused, seeming to struggle with the admission. I need to know you're close, that you're safe. It was a terrible idea. Eva knew that sleeping beside Luciano Moretti would blur lines that were already dangerously fuzzy. But she was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, and the thought of going back to her empty room felt impossible. Just to sleep, she said. Just to sleep, he promised. They lay down together on his bed, Eva still in her pajamas, Luciano in the clean pants he'd managed to pull on. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. And despite everything, Eva felt safe. Thank you, Luciano murmured against her hair, for helping me, for staying. Don't thank me yet. I might smother you with a pillow while you sleep. She felt his chest shake with quiet laughter. At least I'd die happy. That's not funny. It's a little funny. His arm tightened around her. Sleep, Eva. I've got you. And somehow, impossibly, she did. Eva woke to early morning light and the realization that she'd wrapped herself around Luciano like a vine. Her head rested on his chest, one leg thrown over his hip, her hands splayed across his bandaged ribs. He was warm and solid beneath her, his heartbeat steady against her ear. She should move, should extract herself before he woke up and saw how thoroughly she'd betrayed her own resistance. But Luciano's arms were around her, holding her close even in sleep. And for just a moment, Eva let herself stay, let herself pretend this was real, that she'd married him for love, not survival, that he was just a man, not a monster, that she wasn't falling for her captor. His hand moved in her hair, and Eva realized he was awake. Good morning, Luciano said, his voice rough with sleep. Eva didn't move, couldn't seem to make herself pull away. How do you feel? Like I got shot. You got grazed. Semantics. His hand continued stroking her hair, the gesture almost absent. Thank you for last night. For everything. Don't make it weird. Too late. She could hear the smile in his voice. You kissed me, Eva. That's pretty weird, considering you hate me. Eva finally pushed herself up, meeting his gaze. His eyes were clear, alert, watching her with that intensity that made her stomach flutter. I don't hate you, she admitted quietly. I know. He touched her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. That's what scares you, isn't it? That you're starting to feel something for me. Something that isn't just fear or resentment. You're imagining things. Am I? He sat up slowly, wincing. Then why are you still here? Why did you sleep wrapped around me like I was the only thing keeping you safe? Because he was, Eva realized. Somewhere between the warehouse and now, Luciano had become her safety, her protection, her home. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. This doesn't change anything, she said, climbing out of bed. You're still my kidnapper. This is still a cage. If you say so. But Luciano was smiling, and it was knowing and smug and infuriating. I'm going to my room. Eva. She stopped at the door, not turning around. Thank you, Luciano said again, softer this time, for saving my life. You're welcome, Eva whispered. And then she ran, because staying would mean admitting truths she wasn't ready to face. Behind her, She heard Luciano laugh, quiet and pleased, like he'd just won a battle she hadn't realized they were fighting. Maybe he had. Chapter 5. Breaking Point. Breaking hearts 3 days after the attack. Luciano was back to his old self, which meant cold, controlled, and keeping Eva at arm's length. He'd retreated behind his walls as soon as he was healed enough to move without wincing. No more vulnerability. No more honest conversations in the dark. Just the same polite distance he'd maintained since their wedding, like that night in his bed had never happened. Like he hadn't told her he loved her. Eva told herself she was relieved, that the return to normalcy was exactly what she needed, that the ache in her chest whenever Luciano looked through her instead of at her was just wounded pride. She was lying. Mr. Moretti wants to see you in his office, Mrs. Chen said, appearing in the doorway of Eva's room where she'd been pretending to read. Eva's stomach clenched. She hadn't been alone with Luciano since that morning she'd fled his bedroom. They'd passed each other in the penthouse like polite strangers, exchanging pleasantries over breakfast, maintaining the fiction that they were simply two people sharing space, not a husband and wife, not two people who'd kissed like they were drowning. Did he say what he wants? No. Mrs. Chen's expression was carefully neutral, but he seemed tense. That couldn't be good. Eva found Luciano in his office, standing at the window with his back to the door. He'd discarded his jacket, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing the bandages still wrapped around his ribs, evidence of his vulnerability, though everything else about his posture screamed control. You wanted to see me? Eva said from the doorway. Close the door. She did, pulse quickening. The office suddenly felt smaller, more intimate. Dangerous. Luciano turned, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. He was furious, no, beyond furious. His control was fracturing, and Eva could see the cracks. We have a problem, he said, voice deceptively calm. What kind of problem? The kind where Volkov has decided you're my weakness, where he's been making inquiries about your mother, where he's put a price on your head specifically to draw me out. Eva's blood ran cold. My mother is safe. I've tripled her security, but that's not the point. Luciano moved closer, and Eva saw the rage beneath his control. The point is that you've become a target, that every enemy I have now sees you as the key to destroying me. Then let me go. The words came out before Eva could stop them. Divorce me. Send me away. If I'm such a liability, you're not leaving. He said it with such finality that Eva's protest died in her throat. Ever. Do you understand? You just said I'm making you vulnerable. I said you're a target. That's different. Luciano was right in front of her now, close enough that Eva had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. You think I care about vulnerability? You think I give a damn if keeping you puts me at risk? You should. You're supposed to be smart. I am smart. Smart enough to know that losing you would destroy me more than any bullet Volkov could put in my head. Eva's heart hammered. You don't mean that. I told you I loved you. Did you think I was lying? I thought you were delirious from blood loss. I was perfectly lucid. His hands came up to frame her face, forcing her to hold his gaze. I love you, Eva. I've loved you since I watched you take an extra shift at that diner so you could afford your mother's medication. Since I saw you walk home alone in the rain because you couldn't spare the bus fare. Since I realized you were the strongest person I had ever met, and I wanted that strength for myself. That's not love. That's obsession, possession, madness. All of the above, Luciano agreed, reading her mind. But it's still love, my love, the only kind I know how to give. It's not enough. Eva tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. You can't just decide you love someone and expect them to what? Love me back? His laugh was bitter. I'm not that naive, Tesoro. I know you're still fighting this. Fighting me. But that night, when you stayed in my bed, when you kissed me like you were afraid I'd disappear, you felt something. Admit it. Fine. Yes. I felt something. The admission tore out of her. I was terrified and confused, and you were bleeding, and I thought you might die, and yes, I felt something. But that doesn't mean. It means you care. Whether you want to or not, you care about me. Caring isn't love. It's a start. Eva shook her head, tears burning behind her eyes. This is insane. All of it. You kidnapped me, Luciano. You bought me. You trapped me in this life, and now you're angry that I'm making you vulnerable? This is your fault. I know. The admission was stark, honest. I know this is all my fault. I'm selfish and possessive, and I took your choices away because I wanted you more than I cared about what was right. But I can't regret it, Eva. I can't regret having you here, even if it costs me everything. You're going to get us both killed. Then we'll die together. His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I'd rather have a day with you than a lifetime of safety without you. That's the most romantic and idiotic thing I've ever heard. It's the truth. Luciano leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. I'm going to protect you, Eva, with my last breath if necessary. But I need you to stop fighting me. Stop running every time we get close. Let yourself feel what you're feeling. I'm feeling trapped. You're feeling scared. There's a difference. His lips brushed her temple, soft and devastating. What are you afraid of, Tesoro? That you might actually fall for me? That this cage might start to feel like home? Yes, the word broke on a sob. I'm terrified that I'm going to wake up one day and realize I don't want to leave. That you've made me love my prison. That's the cruelest thing you could do to me. Luciano pulled back, studying her face. Eva saw the moment something in him shifted, saw the predator recognizing cornered prey. You're already halfway there, he said softly. Aren't you? Don't. You're already imagining what it would be like if this were real, if we'd met some other way, if you'd chosen me freely instead of being forced. Stop. And the worst part is, you know the truth. His hands slid down to her waist, pulling her flush against him. That even if you'd met me in that diner, even if I'd courted you properly, you still would have ended up here. Because we're inevitable, Eva. You and me. You're delusional. Prove me wrong. It was a challenge, raw and hungry. Kiss me right now, knowing I'm not dying, not vulnerable, not giving you an excuse. Kiss me because you want to, not because you're scared or confused. And then tell me you don't feel anything. Eva's breath came short. She should say no. Should push him away and run back to her room and lock the door. Should maintain the walls she'd been so carefully building. But Luciano was right. She was halfway gone already. I hate you, she whispered, even as her hands fisted in his shirt. I know. His smile was knowing, infuriating, perfect. Hate me all you want. Just don't stop touching me. Eva kissed him. Not gentle, not sweet. She kissed him with all the anger and fear and desperate need that had been building since that night in his bed. Kissed him like she was trying to hurt him, to punish him for making her feel this way. Luciano kissed her back with equal violence, his hands everywhere, her hair, her waist, her throat. He backed her against the desk, lifting her onto it without breaking the kiss. Eva wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer, closer, until there was no space between them. Say it, Luciano breathed against her mouth. Say you want this. I want. Eva couldn't finish, couldn't admit what she was feeling. Say it. His hand slid under her shirt, fingers tracing her ribs. Or I stop right now. You wouldn't. Try me. He pulled back, and the loss of contact made Eva whimper. I told you before, Eva, when I take you to bed, it will be because you're begging for it. I'm not begging. Then we stop here. He started to step away. Wait. Eva grabbed his shirt, pulling him back. Yes? Pride warred with need. Eva had never begged for anything in her life, had always taken care of herself, survived on her own terms. But looking at Luciano, at the hunger in his eyes, the barely leashed control. She realized this wasn't about pride. This was about choice. He was giving her the choice he'd taken away in that warehouse. The chance to say yes on her terms, not his. I want you, Eva said, each word a surrender and a victory. I want this. Please. Luciano's eyes darkened. Again. Please, Luciano. I want you. One more time. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her lips. Look at me and say it. Eva met his gaze, saw the need matching her own. Please, I need you. Now. He kissed her hard enough to bruise, lifting her from the desk. Eva wrapped herself around him as he carried her through the penthouse, neither of them caring about the security cameras, the staff, the world outside this moment. They made it to his bedroom, barely. Luciano kicked the door closed and laid her on his bed with surprising gentleness, his control finally fracturing. Last chance, he said, hovering over her. Tell me to stop and I will. Don't stop. Eva pulled him down. Don't you dare stop. He didn't. Hours later, Eva lay in the tangled sheets of Luciano's bed, her body pleasantly sore, her mind spinning. What had she done? Luciano was asleep beside her, one arm thrown over her waist in a possessive hold even in sleep. In the dim light, he looked younger, less dangerous, almost peaceful. Eva traced the bandages on his ribs, the evidence of how close she'd come to losing him. When had that started mattering? When had Luciano Moretti stopped being her captor and started being something else? You're thinking too loud, Luciano murmured, not opening his eyes. I'm thinking you're insufferable. That's more accurate. He pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. No regrets yet, Eva considered lying. Considered the safe answer. But she was tired of lies. Not yet, she admitted quietly. Good. His hand splayed across her stomach, possessive and warm. Because I'm never letting you go now. Is that supposed to be romantic? It's supposed to be honest. Luciano's eyes opened, gray and serious. I know what we just did changes things, makes this more real. And I know you're probably already planning how to rebuild your walls and pretend this didn't happen. He knew her too well. But it did happen, Eva. You chose me. You wanted me. And I am not going to let you take that back. What if I change my mind? You won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He rolled on top of her, careful of his ribs, bracketing her face with his arms. Because what we just did, that was honest. Real. You can lie to me with your words all you want, but your body doesn't lie, and it was begging for me. Eva's face burned. You're arrogant. I'm confident. He kissed her softly, a contrast to the intensity from before. And I'm yours. Completely. Do you understand what that means? That you're going to be insufferable? That I would burn the world down for you? That every decision I make from now on will be with you in mind? That you're not just my wife, Eva, you're my everything. The declaration should have felt like pressure, like another cage. But looking into Luciano's eyes, Eva saw only truth, raw and unfiltered. That's a lot of responsibility, she whispered. You can handle it. You're stronger than anyone I've ever met. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Good. Fear means you're paying attention. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But I promise you, Tesoro, whatever comes next, we face it together. No more hiding. No more running. What if I'm still angry at you? For the warehouse, the manipulation, all of it? Then be angry. I can handle your rage. What I can't handle is your indifference. Eva laughed despite herself. You're impossible. I'm yours. He said it with such simple certainty that Eva's breath caught. And you're mine. Finally, completely mine. There was that word again. But this time, Eva didn't flinch from it. Because she was starting to understand that being Luciano's didn't mean losing herself. It meant finding someone who saw all of her, the fear, the anger, the strength, and wanted her anyway. What happens now? She asked. Now, Luciano smiled, and it was wicked. Now I make good on every dark promise I've been holding back. Now I show you exactly what being mine means. He kissed her again, and Eva stopped thinking altogether. Outside the bedroom, the world kept turning. Enemies plotted. Dangers lurked. The life they'd built on violence and possession waited to test them. But in this moment, wrapped in each other, Eva and Luciano found something that felt almost like peace, almost like love. And for now, that was enough. Chapter 6. The revelation. Eva woke to an empty bed and the lingering scent of Luciano's cologne. She stretched, feeling the pleasant ache in her muscles, the evidence of last night written on her body in marks she couldn't see but felt everywhere. The sheets beside her were still warm. He hadn't been gone long. A note sat on his pillow, written in that sharp handwriting she was starting to recognize. Had to handle Volkov's situation. Stay inside. Back by noon. LPS last night was perfect. You're perfect. Eva's chest tightened. The postscript was so at odds with the commanding tone of the rest of the note, like two different men had written it. The Mafia boss and the man who'd held her like she was precious. She was starting to realize they were the same person, that Luciano's violence and his tenderness weren't contradictions, but two sides of the same fierce protectiveness. And that terrified her more than anything. Eva showered, trying to wash away the confusion, but it clung to her like Luciano's touch. Everything had changed last night. She'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross, admitted feelings she couldn't take back. She'd chosen him, and now she had to figure out what that meant. The penthouse was quiet when she emerged, dressed in clothes that still felt too expensive, too foreign. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen, preparing lunch with her usual efficiency. "Good morning, Mrs. Moretti," she said, and Eva didn't correct the name, didn't insist on being called Eva. "Mr. Moretti asked me to ensure you ate properly today." Of course he did, but Eva smiled despite herself. Mrs. Chen set a plate in front of her, eggs, toast, fresh fruit, real food, not the protein bars and coffee that had sustained Eva for years. "He worries about you," Mrs. Chen said, in a rare moment of personal observation. "I've worked for Mr. Moretti for 5 years. I've never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Human." Mrs. Chen's expression softened. "He's always been fair, generous even, but distant, controlled. Until you." Eva picked at her eggs, not sure how to respond. "I don't think I've made him less controlled." "No, but you've made him care about something other than power." Mrs. Chen refilled Eva's coffee. "That's dangerous in his world, but it's also hopeful." Before Eva could process that, her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "If you want to know the truth about your husband, come to the address below. Alone." A friend. Eva's stomach dropped. It was obviously a trap. Had to be. Volkov or one of Luciano's other enemies trying to lure her out of the safety of the penthouse. She should delete it. Should tell Luciano the moment he got home. But the words gnawed at her. The truth about your husband. What truth? What else didn't she know about the man she'd just given herself to? Another text arrived. "I have proof Luciano has been lying to you. About why he married you. About how long he's been watching you. Come alone or don't come at all." Eva's hands shook. It was stupid. Reckless. Everything Luciano had warned her against. But she needed to know. She texted back. "What kind of proof?" The response was immediate. "Photos. Documents. The truth about the accident 5 years ago. Come to Harbor Street Cafe at 2 p.m. Come alone." 5 years ago. Eva's mind raced. 5 years ago, she'd been 19, working 2 jobs to support her mother. 5 years ago, she'd been in a car accident that had nearly killed her. A drunk driver had run a red light, T-boning her beat-up Honda. She'd survived with minor injuries, but the other driver had fled. The police never found him. Eva had spent months in physical therapy, accumulated thousands in medical bills that she was still paying off. What did that have to do with Luciano? Eva looked at the address. Harbor Street Cafe, public, crowded, in the middle of the day. If someone wanted to hurt her, there were easier ways. This was about information, not violence. She made her decision. Losing the security detail was easier than Eva expected. She told them she was visiting her mother at Sacred Heart, waited until they called it in and gotten approval, then slipped away during the chaos of shift change. By the time they realized she'd gotten into a different car, Eva was already halfway to the Harbor District. The cafe was exactly as advertised, small, busy, filled with dock workers and tourists. Eva scanned the crowd, looking for anyone who might be her mysterious contact. Eva Sinclair, a woman's voice, cultured and familiar. Eva turned. Isabella Castellano sat in a corner booth, looking every inch the Mafia princess in designer clothes and perfect makeup. She gestured to the seat across from her. You, Eva breathed. You're the friend? Friend might be generous, but I'm not your enemy. Not today, anyway. Isabella pushed a manila envelope across the table. Sit. You're going to want to see this. Eva's mind raced. Isabella, Luciano's ex-fiancée, the woman who'd chosen family over love. What game was she playing? Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, but your curiosity is stronger than your common sense, or you wouldn't be here. Isabella's smile was sharp. Open the envelope, Eva. See what your husband has been hiding. Eva sat slowly, hands trembling as she reached for the envelope. Inside were photos, grainy, surveillance-style images. The first showed a younger Luciano, maybe 5 years ago, standing on a street corner, watching a car. Eva's car. That was taken 6 hours before your accident, Isabella said quietly. Luciano was following you. Had been for weeks. Eva's blood ran cold. Why? Keep looking. The next photo showed the accident itself. The drunk driver's truck, Eva's crumpled Honda, and in the background, blurry but unmistakable, Luciano, pulling the driver from the truck, not saving him, dragging him away. The driver who hit you was one of Volkov's men, Isabella continued. Alexei Petrov. He was drunk, yes, but he'd also been paid to make that accident look random, to kill you. Eva's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the photo. Why would Volkov want to kill me? I was nobody. You were the daughter of Marcus Sinclair's mistress. The name hit Eva like a physical blow. Marcus Sinclair, her father, the man who'd abandoned her mother when Eva was 2, the man Eva had only met twice in her life, both times when he'd shown up drunk, demanding money. I don't understand. Marcus Sinclair wasn't just your deadbeat father. He was also Volkov's accountant. And he'd been skimming. When Volkov found out, he had Marcus killed. But not before Marcus told him about you and your mother, his leverage, his insurance policy. He'd hidden evidence of Volkov's operations, told Volkov if anything happened to him, the information would go to the FBI. Eva's mind spun. My father never gave me anything, because Volkov had him killed before he could. But Volkov didn't know that. So he decided to eliminate the problem, sent Alexei to make it look like an accident. Kill you, terrorize your mother into giving up information she didn't have. Isabella pushed another photo across the table. This one showed Luciano, crouching beside Eva's wrecked car. His hand was on her face, checking her pulse. The look in his eyes, even blurry and distant, was devastation. Luciano stopped it, Isabella said. He'd been tracking Volkov's movements, knew about the hit. He couldn't stop the accident. Alexei was already drunk and moving before Luciano realized what was happening. But he pulled Alexei away before he could finish the job. Saved your life. And then what? Why didn't he go to the police? Because he killed Alexei. Isabella said it calmly, like discussing the weather. Right there, in the street. Snapped his neck and made it look like he died in the crash. Then he disappeared before the authorities arrived. Eva stared at the photos, mind reeling. 5 years. Luciano had known about her for 5 years, had saved her life 5 years ago. Why? Eva whispered. Why would he care about some random girl? Because he'd been watching you for months before that. Your father had come to him, tried to cut a deal. Luciano refused. He doesn't work with cowards or thieves. But he'd seen you, seen how you worked yourself to the bone to support your mother, seen your strength, your determination. And when he learned Volkov had ordered the hit, he couldn't let it happen. Isabella leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Luciano Moretti doesn't save people, Eva. He uses them or destroys them. But he saved you, and he's been protecting you ever since, from the shadows, making sure Volkov never got another shot. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too hot. Eva struggled to breathe. The debt, she said. My mother's gambling debt wasn't to the Bratva originally. It was to a smaller operation. But Luciano bought all her debts, spread them around to different organizations so it would look natural. Then he waited until you were desperate enough, vulnerable enough, that you'd have no choice but to accept his offer. He orchestrated everything. The realization was ice in her veins. The collection agents finding me that night, the warehouse attack was real. Volkov's retaliation for Luciano buying up territory. But Luciano knew you'd run to the harbor district. You always did when you needed to disappear. He had men watching you, made sure you'd end up exactly where he could rescue you. Eva stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. She was going to be sick. Everything, every moment since the warehouse, had been a lie, a manipulation. Luciano hadn't saved her. He'd orchestrated her captivity. Why are you telling me this? Eva demanded, anger cutting through the nausea. What do you get out of it? Isabella's expression was complicated, pity and satisfaction mixed together. Because you deserve to know what kind of man you married. And because, she paused, because I know what it's like to love Luciano Moretti, to think he's capable of real feeling. And I'm telling you now, he's not. He's obsessed with you, yes. Possessive of you, absolutely. But love? Luciano doesn't love. He conquers, and you're his greatest conquest. You're lying. But Eva's voice shook. Am I? Ask him yourself. Ask him about the accident, about how long he's been watching you, about the debts he bought and the trap he set. Isabella stood, gathering her purse. But be careful, Eva, because if you confront him, if you try to leave, you'll see exactly how far Luciano's love extends. You'll see the monster behind the manual. She left Eva standing there, photos scattered on the table, world crumbling around her. Eva made it back to the penthouse on autopilot. The security detail was frantic, surrounding her the moment she entered, demanding to know where she'd been. Get Luciano, Eva said, her voice hollow. Now. He arrived within minutes, moving through the security team like a storm. His expression was fury until he saw her face. Then it shifted to concern. Eva, what happened? Where did you? 5 years ago, Eva interrupted. I was in a car accident. Do you remember it? Luciano went still. Eva watched the calculation in his eyes, watched him assess how much she knew. Eva, do you remember it? She repeated louder. Yes, his jaw tightened. I remember. Because you were there. You stopped it. Who told you? Isabella. Eva threw the photos at his feet. They scattered like accusations. She told me everything. How you've been watching me for 5 years. How you bought my mother's debts. How you orchestrated everything to trap me. Luciano looked at the photos, then back at her. It's not what you think. Then tell me. Eva's voice broke. Tell me it's a lie. Tell me you didn't manipulate everything to get me here. I can't. The admission was quiet, devastating. Because it's true. All of it. Eva's knees nearly gave out. Hearing it confirmed, hearing him admit it, was somehow worse than Isabella's revelation. You've been stalking me for 5 years. Protecting you. You bought my mother's debts to control me. To save you from worse creditors. You orchestrated my capture. Eva was shouting now, tears streaming down her face. Everything, the warehouse, the wedding, last night, all of it was part of your plan. I never had a choice. You made sure of that. You did have a choice. Luciano moved toward her, and Eva backed away. In the warehouse, in the courthouse, last night. Every time I gave you the choice, a choice you manipulated me into making. Eva's laugh was broken, bitter. You're right, Luciano. You are good at this. You made me think I was choosing you. Made me think I was falling for you on my own. But it was all part of the trap, wasn't it? No. He reached for her, and Eva slapped his hand away. Eva, listen to me. Why? So you can lie some more. So you can manipulate me with more false confessions of love? It's not false. Luciano's voice was raw. I love you. That was never a lie. You don't love me. You own me. And you've been planning this ownership for 5 years. Eva grabbed her purse, not sure where she was going, but knowing she couldn't stay here. Isabella was right. You're not capable of love. Just obsession. If I'm obsessed, it's because you're worth obsessing over. Luciano blocked her path to the door. Yes, I've been watching you. Yes, I bought the debts. Yes, I orchestrated circumstances to make you mine. But everything I did to protect you. You did it to possess me. Both things can be true. He gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. I'm not a good man, Eva. I've never pretended to be. But everything I've done, every manipulation, every lie, it was to keep you safe, to keep Volkov from finishing what he started, to make sure you'd survive in a world that would destroy you otherwise. You should have told me. Eva's voice dropped to a whisper. You should have been honest, given me the real choice, not the illusion of one. And if I'd walked up to you in that diner and said, hello, I've been stalking you for 5 years. Your deadbeat father got you marked for death. Marry me so I can protect you. Would you have said yes? Eva wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe she would have chosen him anyway. But the truth was, no, she whispered. I would have run. Exactly. Luciano's hands gentled on her shoulders. So I did what I had to do. I made sure you'd end up here, safe, protected. Mine. And maybe that makes me a monster. But I'm your monster, Eva. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. That's the problem. Eva pulled away from his touch. Because I love you. Despite everything, despite knowing what you did, I love you. And that terrifies me more than anything Volkov could do. Luciano's expression shifted, hope, fear, longing all mixing together. You love me? I hate that I do. I hate that you've made me dependent on you. That I can't imagine leaving, even knowing the truth. Eva's tears fell freely now. You've taken everything from me, Luciano. My freedom, my choices, my ability to trust my own feelings. And the worst part is, I'd probably let you do it all over again. Eva, I need time. She moved past him toward her room, not his, not anymore. I need space to think, to figure out what's real and what you've made me feel. This is real. He didn't follow her, but his voice carried across the distance. What we have, what you feel, it's real. I may have engineered the circumstances, but I can't manufacture emotion. What you're feeling is yours, not mine. Eva paused at her door. How do I know that? How do I trust anything after this? I don't know. Luciano's voice was hollow, defeated. But I'll spend the rest of my life proving it to you if you let me. That's the thing, Luciano. Eva turned to look at him one last time, and the pain in his eyes nearly broke her resolve. You've never let me make that choice freely, and now I don't know if I ever can. She closed the door between them. And on the other side, Eva Moretti, who'd been Eva Sinclair just a week ago, finally allowed herself to break, because the truth was worse than any lie. She loved her captor, and now she had to decide if that love was worth keeping. Chapter 7. Blood on the vows, 2 days of silence. Eva stayed in her room, barely eating, refusing to see Luciano even when he knocked softly on her door. Mrs. Chen brought meals that went cold on the nightstand. Security reports piled up outside, unread. Eva stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out who she was now. Was she the woman who'd fallen for her captor? The fool who'd believed his lies? The victim of a 5-year stalking campaign disguised as love? Or was she the woman who'd seen Luciano bleed, who'd felt his desperation when he begged her to stay, who knew that beneath the manipulation was something raw and real? Both. Neither. She didn't know anymore. On the third morning, Mrs. Chen entered without knocking, a violation of the unspoken rules they'd established. Mrs. Moretti, you need to get up. I don't need to do anything. Eva's voice was hoarse from disuse. Viktor Volkov is making his move. Today. Mrs. Chen's tone was urgent. Mr. Moretti is preparing for a confrontation. He wants you in the safe room. Of course he does. Eva laughed bitterly. Lock me away where I can't interfere. He wants you safe. Mrs. Chen moved to the closet, pulling out clothes. And you need to let him protect you, even if you're angry with him. I'm not angry. I'm broken, confused, in love with a man who orchestrated my entire life. I don't know what I am. Mrs. Chen sat on the edge of the bed, her usually professional demeanor softening. May I speak honestly? Eva nodded. I was married once, to a terrible man. He beat me, controlled every aspect of my life, isolated me from my family. I thought that was love. Thought his jealousy meant he cared. She paused. Mr. Moretti is not that manual. He manipulated me. He did. He also saved your life. Protected you for 5 years. Gave you choices when he could have simply taken what he wanted. Mrs. Chen met Eva's gaze. I'm not saying what he did was right, but I am saying there's a difference between control born of cruelty and control born of desperation. How do I know which one this is? You ask yourself, do you feel smaller with him, or do you feel seen? Mrs. Chen stood. Now get dressed, because whether you forgive him or not, you need to survive today, and that means letting him do what he does best. Eva showered and dressed mechanically. Mrs. Chen was right. Whatever her feelings about Luciano, she didn't want him dead. Didn't want to face a world where he didn't exist in it. That probably said everything about her mental state. When she emerged, the penthouse was chaos. Men in tactical gear moved through the space with military precision. Weapons everywhere. Battle plans spread across the dining table like blueprints for murder. And Luciano, standing in the center of it all, looking like a general preparing for war. He saw her and went still. Their eyes met across the room, and Eva saw everything in that gaze: regret, longing, fear, love. God help her, she saw love. Eva. He moved toward her, but stopped short of touching, like he wasn't sure he had the right anymore. You shouldn't be out here. Mrs. Chen said Volkov is coming. He is. We intercepted communications. He's bringing an army. Luciano's jaw tightened. This ends today, one way or another. You could run, take me and disappear. Running would make it worse. He'd hunt us forever. Luciano finally allowed himself to touch her, just his fingers on her cheek, soft and reverent. I have to face him, have to end this threat. You could die. I know. The casual acceptance terrified her more than anything. Luciano, I need you in the safe room. Please, Eva. Don't fight me on this. What if I want to fight beside you? Something flickered in his expression, surprise maybe. Or hope. You don't know how to fight. Then teach me. Eva grabbed his hand, holding tight. You said we face things together. You promised no more hiding. So don't hide me now. That's different. This is, what? Too dangerous. Luciano, my entire life has been dangerous since you decided to save it 5 years ago. Don't protect me from reality now. One of Luciano's men cleared his throat. Boss, they're 10 minutes out. Luciano's eyes never left Eva's. She could see him calculating, weighing options, trying to find a way to keep her safe and respect her choice simultaneously. If you stay, he finally said, you follow orders. No hesitation. No arguments. You do exactly what I say when I say it. Agreed. And if I tell you to run, you run. You don't look back. Don't try to be a hero. You survive. For me, the intensity in those last two words made Eva's chest ache. Okay, Marco. Luciano turned to one of his men, one of the brothers from the photos. Get her a vest and a weapon. Boss, do it. There was no room for argument in his tone. 5 minutes later, Eva stood in a bulletproof vest that was too big, holding a gun she barely knew how to use, watching Luciano's world prepare for violence. The safety's here. Luciano showed her again, patient despite the ticking clock. You aim center mass. Don't try for headshots. And you only fire if someone's about to kill you. Understand? Eva nodded, throat too tight for words. Luciano pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. I love you. Whatever happens, whatever you decide about us after this, I love you. That was never part of the manipulation. I know. And she did. Finally, devastatingly, she understood. I love you too, even though I shouldn't. Even though you're impossible and controlling and you orchestrated my entire life, I love you. He kissed her, and it tasted like goodbye. Then the windows exploded. Chaos erupted in a storm of glass and gunfire. Eva hit the ground, Luciano covering her body with his own as bullets tore through the penthouse. Men shouted, returned fire, the air thick with smoke and cordite. Move. Luciano hauled her up, pulling her toward cover behind the overturned dining table. Stay down. Eva pressed herself against the wood, heart hammering. This was nothing like the warehouse. This was war. Through gaps in the furniture, she could see Volkov's men storming in, at least a dozen, heavily armed. They moved with precision, covering each other, advancing through the space like they'd practiced. Luciano's security team fought back, but they were outnumbered. Eva watched one go down, then another. Blood sprayed across expensive marble. Death painted the walls red. We need to move. Marco appeared beside them, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. They've got the elevators locked down. We're trapped. The stairwell. Blocked. They planned this, boss. They want you cornered. Luciano's expression went cold, calculating. Then we give them what they want. Draw them in, hit them when they're exposed. That's suicide. It's the only play we have. Luciano turned to Eva. Remember what I said. If I tell you to run, I run. I remember. Eva's hands shook on the gun. But I'm not running yet. Pride flashed across his face, there and gone. That's my girl. He moved out from behind cover, drawing fire, and Eva's heart stopped. But Luciano was fast, controlled, placing shots with surgical precision. Two of Volkov's men went down. Then Viktor Volkov himself stepped through the shattered windows. He was older than Eva remembered from the reception, silver-haired and distinguished in a way that belied the monster underneath. He surveyed the carnage with satisfaction. Luciano, he called out. Enough. Let's talk like civilized men. You brought an army to talk. Luciano's voice was cold. I brought insurance, because I know you, my friend. You never negotiate from weakness. Victor's gaze found Eva, and his smile widened. But now you have weakness, don't you? Touch her, and I'll burn your empire to ashes. Such passion, it's almost romantic. Victor gestured, and two of his men grabbed Eva before Luciano could react. She fought, but they were trained, efficient. Within seconds, she was being dragged toward Victor, gun torn from her hands. Let her go. Luciano's gun was up, aimed at Victor's head. Shoot me, and my men kill her instantly. Victor pulled Eva in front of him, using her as a shield. Now, We negotiate. Eva could feel Luciano's eyes on her, could see the calculation behind them. He was thinking, planning, looking for an opening. What do you want? Luciano asked. Your territory, your operations, everything you've built in Seattle. Victor's grip tightened on Eva's arm. Sign it over, walk away, and I let you both live. Refuse, and I kill her while you watch. Then I kill you. Don't do it, Eva said. He'll kill us anyway. Victor's hand cracked across her face. Eva's head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheek. Luciano's expression went from cold to murderous. You just made a fatal mistake. Did I? Because from where I'm standing, I have all the power. Eva moved. She'd learned a few things in her years of survival. How to find weakness. How to exploit desperation. How to fight when you had nothing left to lose. She drove her elbow back into Victor's stomach, twisted, grabbed the gun from his holster. It wasn't clean or professional, but it worked. For a second, she had the weapon. For a second, she had a choice. She fired. The shot went wide. Eva had never fired a gun before, didn't know how to compensate for recoil. But it was enough. Enough distraction for Luciano to move. He shot the man holding position, precise and lethal. Marco and Dante, who Eva suddenly realized had been waiting for an opening, moved as one, taking down the remaining threats. But Victor still had his hands on Eva. Clever girl, he hissed in her ear. But not clever enough. She felt the knife before she saw it, sharp pain across her side, warm blood spreading through her shirt. Eva gasped, legs giving out. Luciano's roar was inhuman. He crossed the distance in seconds, moving faster than Eva had ever seen him move. His hands found Victor's throat, and for a moment, she thought he'd tear the man's head off. Luciano, Victor choked. You touched her, cut her, made her bleed. Each word was punctuated with violence. Did you really think I'd let you live after that? Please. No. Luciano's voice was ice. No mercy. Not for you. The sound of Victor's neck breaking was almost anticlimactic. Then Luciano was beside Eva, gathering her up, his hands checking her wound with desperate care. How bad? He demanded. Not bad. Shallow, I think. Eva tried to sit up, but the room tilted. Maybe worse than I thought. Dante, get Dr. Volkov on the line. Now. Luciano pressed his hand against her side, trying to stop the bleeding. Stay with me, Eva. Don't you dare leave me now. I'm okay. You're bleeding. You're hurt. Because I couldn't protect you. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Stop. Eva reached up, touching his face. I chose this. I chose to stay. I chose to fight. She managed a weak smile. I chose you. Luciano's eyes were bright with unshed tears. You're delirious. Maybe, but it's still true. Eva coughed, and it hurt. I love you, Luciano Moretti, even though you're a controlling, manipulative, impossible man. I love you. I love you too. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, gentle despite the violence around them. I love you so much it terrifies me, which is why you're never doing anything this stupid again. Can't promise that. Try. Dr. Volkov arrived, no relation to Victor, thankfully, and declared the wound superficial, deep enough to need stitches, but not life-threatening. Eva would heal. The penthouse, however, was a disaster. We'll need to relocate, Marco said, surveying the damage. At least temporarily. The estate, Luciano decided. Full lockdown. No one in or out without my authorization. He carried Eva to the car himself, refusing to let anyone else touch her. In the back seat, with the city falling away behind them, Eva finally allowed herself to process what had happened. She'd fought. She'd chosen to stay. She'd defended herself and the man she loved. She'd chosen him. Not because she was manipulated or trapped or had no other option, but because despite everything, Despite the lies and manipulation and orchestrated circumstances, her feelings were real. Mrs. Chen had been right. With Luciano, Eva didn't feel smaller. She felt seen. "What are you thinking?" Luciano asked, his arm around her shoulders, holding her close. "That I'm still angry with you. I know. And that I'm going to need time to trust you completely again. I know. And that you're going to have to prove every day that you respect my choices, my autonomy, my freedom. I will. Every day. Whatever it takes." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "What else?" That despite all of that, Eva looked up at him, seeing the fear and hope warring in his eyes. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. For real this time." Luciano's breath shuddered out. "You mean it?" "I mean it." Eva took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "I won't run. Not from danger. Not from you. We're in this together. For better or worse." That sounds like a vow. Maybe it is. Eva smiled, despite the pain, despite everything. Maybe it's the vow we should have said in that courthouse. The real one. Luciano pulled her closer, and Eva felt his tears against her hair. "I'll spend every day earning that vow. I promise." "I know you will." And she did, because there was the truth Isabella couldn't see, that Eva had almost missed. Luciano Moretti was controlling, manipulative, impossible. He'd orchestrated her life and taken away her choices. But he was also the man who'd saved her 5 years ago and never stopped protecting her, who looked at her like she was his entire world, who was willing to die for her, to change for her, to give her the freedom he'd once denied. He was her captor. He was her savior. He was her husband, and Eva was finally ready to be his wife. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. Chapter 8. Choosing each other 3 weeks later, Eva stood on the balcony of Luciano's estate, watching the sun set over Seattle. The city looked peaceful from here. No hint of the violence that had nearly destroyed them. No evidence of the blood spilled or the lives lost. Just lights beginning to twinkle as darkness fell, beautiful and innocent. Eva knew better now, knew that beauty could hide darkness. That peace was often an illusion, but she also knew that darkness could hold beauty too. "You're thinking too loud again." Eva smiled as Luciano's arms wrapped around her from behind, his warmth solid and reassuring. The stitches in her side had come out yesterday, leaving a thin scar she'd carry forever, a reminder of the day she'd chosen to fight. "Just watching the city," she said, leaning back against his chest. "Regretting your choice yet?" It had become their joke, Luciano asking, Eva answering, a ritual that acknowledged the complexity of what they were, what they'd built from manipulation and violence, and something that was slowly, carefully becoming real. "Not today," Eva answered, like she always did. "Ask me tomorrow." "I will." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Every day, for the rest of our lives." The estate had become home in a way the penthouse never had. Larger, yes, but also warmer somehow. Mrs. Chen had helped Eva personalize the spaces, adding touches that made it feel lived in rather than just expensive. Photos on the mantle, real ones, not just surveillance images. Books Eva actually wanted to read. A piano in the sunroom that Luciano was teaching her to play, patient despite her fumbling fingers. Signs of life, of people, not just power. "Dante called," Luciano said. "The last of Volkov's lieutenants has been dealt with. The territory is secure." Dealt with. Eva knew what that meant. More blood, more violence. The world Luciano lived in didn't allow for mercy, but she'd stopped judging him for it. Had started to understand that in his world, mercy was weakness, that the violence he wielded was to protect what was his, to protect her. "Does that bother you?" Luciano asked. "Still?" "Yes," Eva admitted honestly. "But I'm learning to live with it, to understand the difference between cruelty and necessity. That's all I can ask." They'd been working on this, honest communication. Luciano had started seeing a therapist, something Eva had insisted on, not because she thought she could change him, but because she needed him to learn healthier ways of expressing control. And he'd agreed, because as he'd said, he was willing to do whatever it took to keep her, even change. Your mother called too, Luciano continued. She wants to have dinner with us next week, if you're comfortable with that. Eva's relationship with her mother had improved since Volkov's death. With the debts truly gone and her mother in proper treatment, they'd started having real conversations. Difficult ones, about the past, about mistakes made on both sides. Healing wasn't linear, but it was happening. I'd like that, Eva said. As long as you promise not to be too charming. She's already half in love with you. Can you blame her? I'm very charming. Eva elbowed him lightly, careful of her healing wound. You're impossible. And yet, you love me. Unfortunately. But she was smiling. The past 3 weeks had been an education in what their relationship could be when built on honesty instead of manipulation. Luciano still tried to control things. That was in his nature. But now he caught himself, asked permission, gave Eva space to make decisions. And Eva was learning to trust again, to believe that his love, however complicated and dark, was real. They were damaged people building something from broken pieces. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. I have something for you, Luciano said, pulling back slightly. If it's more jewelry, I'm going to be very annoyed. I told you to stop buying me things. It's not jewelry. Well, not exactly. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Eva's heart stuttered. Before you panic, it's not what you think. Eva took the box with trembling hands. Inside was a key, simple, silver, nothing ornate. What? It's the key to the estate, all the locks, all the doors, including the safe room. Luciano's voice was quiet, serious. I had them changed after the attack. This is the only copy beyond mine. Eva stared at the key, understanding washing over her. You're giving me the ability to lock you out. I'm giving you the ability to leave, freely, whenever you want. His hands cupped her face, making her look at him. No guards preventing you. No locks you can't open. Complete freedom. Luciano, I know I took your choices away. I know I manipulated circumstances to trap you here. This is me giving those choices back. His thumb brushed her cheek. Every day, I want you to choose to stay. Not because you have to, but because you want to. And if one day you choose to leave, his voice caught, then I'll let you go. Tears burned in Eva's eyes. This was what she needed without knowing how to ask for it. The freedom to choose him truly, without coercion or manipulation. You realize I could use this to escape right now, she said through her tears. I know. I could walk out that door and never come back. I know. His voice was steady despite the fear in his eyes. But I'm betting you won't, because you love me, and I love you, and we're choosing this together. Eva closed the box, slipping it into her pocket. The key rested there, heavy with promise and possibility. You're right, she said. I'm choosing to stay, not because I'm trapped, but because this is where I want to be, with you, building something real. Luciano's kiss was soft, reverent, like she was something precious he couldn't quite believe he got to keep. Thank you, he whispered against her lips. For what? For choosing me, after everything, for seeing past the monster to the men underneath. You're both, Eva said honestly. Monster and man, and I love all of you, even the parts that scare me. I'll spend my life earning their love. I know you will. They stood together as darkness fell completely, the city lights spreading below them like stars. And Eva thought about how far they'd come from that warehouse, from that moment when Luciano had offered his hand and she'd taken it out of desperation. Now she was taking his hand out of love. The difference was everything. 1 month later, Eva sat in Luciano's office, her office too, now, reviewing the books for their new venture. After Volkov's death, Luciano had started the transition to legitimate business. Not completely, he'd never be fully clean, but enough. Enough to build something that wouldn't get Eva killed or land him in prison. They'd opened a nonprofit, helping families escape gambling addiction and predatory debt. It was Eva's idea, born from her own experience, and Luciano had embraced it with characteristic intensity. "We got 3 new applications today," Eva said, looking up from her computer. 2 from the downtown area, 1 from Tacoma. Luciano looked up from his own work. Even now, seeing him in reading glasses did something to Eva's pulse. "Can we handle the capacity?" "If we hire another counselor, yes. I have someone in mind, Dr. Sarah Chen. She specializes in addiction and family trauma." "Any relation to Mrs. Chen?" "Her daughter, actually." Eva smiled. "Small world. Hire her." Luciano removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Whatever she needs, give it to her. This project is important." Because it mattered to Eva. He didn't say it, but she heard it anyway. They'd fallen into a rhythm these past weeks, working together, learning each other's strengths. Luciano handled the business side, the negotiations, the connections. Eva handled the human side, the counseling, the healing. Together, they were building something good from the ashes of violence. "Dante's getting married," Luciano said suddenly. Eva looked up, surprised. "Really? To whom?" "A lawyer named Christina. They met when she was defending one of our men." His smile was fond. "He says she's terrifying and brilliant, and he's completely gone for her." "Sounds familiar." Eva's tone was teasing. "Does it?" Luciano stood, moving around the desk to where Eva sat. "Are you saying I'm terrifying?" "Absolutely. And brilliant. And I'm completely gone for you." Eva stood to meet him. "Unfortunately." There's that word again. Unfortunately. He pulled her close, careful of her still healing scar. "You say it like it's a bad thing. It complicates my life. I am your life." "See, impossible." But Eva was smiling, wrapping her arms around his neck. "What am I going to do with you? Love me. Fight with me. Build this life with me." Luciano's expression turned serious. "I want to renew our vows." Eva's breath caught. "What?" "Our wedding was a transaction. I want to do it again, properly, with your mother there, with the people we care about. I want to stand in front of everyone and say the words I should have said the first time." "What words are those?" "That I love you, that I choose you, that every day with you is a gift I don't deserve but will cherish anyway." His hands framed her face. "That you're not my possession, Eva. You're my partner, my equal, my home." Tears spilled over before Eva could stop them. "You really mean that?" "Every word. So what do you say? Will you marry me again, properly this time?" Eva pretended to consider. "Will there be a honeymoon? Because the first time, you locked me in a penthouse and called it protection. Anywhere you want to go. Paris, Tokyo, a beach in Fiji. Your choice." "My choice." Eva savored the words. "I like the sound of that. So is that a yes?" "It's a yes, on one condition." Luciano's eyes narrowed with amusement. "You're negotiating with me. I learned from the best." Eva's smile was wicked. "I want a real proposal. Down on one knee. Ring. The whole thing. You owe me that much." "You're enjoying this?" "Immensely." Luciano laughed, a real laugh, full and genuine. Then he dropped to one knee, right there in the office, and pulled out a ring box Eva hadn't noticed him carrying. Inside was a ring, simpler than Eva expected. A single diamond, elegant but not ostentatious, beautiful in its restraint. "Eva Marie Moretti," Luciano said, his voice rough with emotion. "You are the strongest, most infuriating, most incredible woman I've ever met. You've taken my worst qualities and somehow made them bearable. You've given me a reason to be better, to build something that matters. I love you with everything I am, everything I have, everything I'll ever be. Will you marry me again? For real this time? Eva dropped to her knees in front of him, cupping his face in her hands. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly, of course, and kissed her with such tenderness that Eva felt it in her bones. This was what love looked like when it was real, complicated and messy and built on honesty instead of lies. Imperfect but true. I love you, Eva whispered against his lips. I love you too, always. They stayed there on the floor of the office, holding each other, and Eva marveled at how far they'd come, from that warehouse to here. From captor and captive to partners, equals, lovers. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been clean. But it was theirs, and Eva wouldn't change a single moment. Because sometimes love didn't look like fairy tales. Sometimes it looked like choosing someone despite their darkness, because of their darkness. Because they'd shown you their worst and you decided it was worth it anyway. Luciano Moretti was violent, controlling, possessive. He'd manipulated her life and stolen her choices, but he was also loyal, protective, devoted. He'd saved her life and given her purpose. He'd shown her strength she didn't know she had. He was her monster. He was her man. And Eva chose him every single day. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. That was the difference that mattered. That was everything. The second wedding happened 2 months later, in the garden of the estate. Small, intimate. Eva's mother in the front row, healthy and sober, tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Chen and her daughter Sarah. Marco and Dante with their partners. A handful of people who mattered, who'd earned their place in this complicated life. Eva wore a dress she'd chosen herself. Ivory silk, simple and elegant. Not the cream sheath from the courthouse, but something that felt like her. Luciano wore a black suit, looking devastating and nervous in equal measure. Dearly beloved, the officiant began, and Eva had to bite back a laugh at the traditional words applied to their anything but traditional love. When it came time for the vows, Luciano spoke first. Eva, I told you once that I've been watching you for 5 years, that I orchestrated everything to make you mine. That was true, and I won't apologize for it. But what I will say is this. Every day since then, you've taught me what it means to truly love someone, not to own them, not to control them, but to partner with them, to respect them, to choose them freely and be chosen in return. He took her hands, and Eva saw the emotion swimming in his gray eyes. I promise to keep choosing you, to keep earning your trust, to give you freedom even when my instinct is to cage you, to love you not as my possession, but as my equal, my wife, my everything. Eva's turn. She'd written and rewritten her vows a dozen times, trying to capture what they meant to her. In the end, she'd settled on honesty. Luciano, when we met in that warehouse, I thought you were my end, my destruction. And in a way, you were. You destroyed the small, scared life I'd been living. You burned it down to ashes. She squeezed his hands, seeing understanding in his expression. But from those ashes, you helped me build something new, something stronger. You showed me I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. And yes, you manipulated circumstances to get me here. Yes, you took away my choices, but you also gave them back. And now, standing here today, I'm choosing you. Not because I have to, not because I'm trapped, but because I love you. All of you, even the dark parts, especially the dark parts. Eva smiled through her tears. I promise to keep choosing you, to keep fighting with you and for you, to build this complicated, messy, beautiful life with you, to be your partner, your equal, your home, just as you are mine. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife, again, and Luciano kissed her like it was the first time, like she was precious and perfect in his. And this time, Eva kissed him back knowing she was. His, yes, but also her own. That was the magic they'd found, the impossible balance between possession and freedom, between darkness and light. They were bound by ashes, by violence and manipulation, and all the dark things that had brought them together. But they were also bound by choice, by love, by the conscious decision to keep choosing each other every single day. That was the vow that mattered. That was the promise they'd keep together. Epilogue. The promise of a dangerous love. 6 months later, Eva woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and Luciano's arm draped across her waist, possessive even in sleep. Some things never changed. She smiled, tracing the lines of his face, relaxed now, younger looking without the constant tension he carried when awake. In sleep, he looked almost innocent. Almost. Eva knew better, knew the darkness that lurked beneath the surface, knew what those hands were capable of, but she also knew their gentleness, their devotion, the way they held her like she was something precious. Luciano's eyes opened, immediately alert, always a light sleeper, always ready for danger. But when he saw her watching him, his expression softened. "Good morning, wife. Good morning, husband." Eva would never tire of that word. Husband. Hers by choice now, not circumstance. "What time is it?" "Early. We don't have to be at the center until 10. The center, their nonprofit, had grown beyond Eva's wildest expectations. They now had 3 locations across Seattle, helping hundreds of families escape the cycle of addiction and debt that had nearly destroyed Eva's own family. It was meaningful work, hard work, but it gave Eva purpose beyond survival, and it gave Luciano a way to atone, in some small measure, for the violence that had built his empire. "Then we have time." Luciano's hand slid up her side, and Eva shivered at the familiar heat in his eyes. Time for what? To properly start the day. He pulled her closer, and Eva went willingly, always willingly now. 6 months of marriage, real marriage, had taught her that physical intimacy with Luciano was never just physical. It was communication, connection, the place where they were most honest with each other. Where words failed, their bodies spoke truth. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets with Luciano's heartbeat steady beneath her ear, Eva felt the contentment of someone who'd found home in the most unlikely place. "Your mother called yesterday," Luciano said, fingers tracing lazy patterns on her back, "while you were in that meeting with the donors." "What did she want?" "To invite us to Thanksgiving dinner at her new apartment." Pride colored his voice. "She's been sober for 4 months now." 4 months. Eva's throat tightened. Her mother had been in and out of treatment for years, but something had changed after Volkov's death, after Eva had finally stopped enabling, stopped sacrificing herself to save someone who hadn't been ready to be saved. Now her mother was doing the work, real work, and Eva was learning to be supportive without being consumed. "I'd like that," Eva said, "as long as you promise not to charm her too much. She already thinks you're perfect." "I am perfect. For you anyway." Luciano's arms tightened around her. "Have I told you today that I love you?" "Not yet." "Unacceptable. I love you, Eva Moretti, more than I thought I was capable of loving anyone." "I love you too." Eva propped herself up to look at him. "Even when you're being impossible." "Especially then." They showered together, another intimacy Eva had grown to cherish, and dressed for the day. Eva in comfortable jeans and a sweater, Luciano in casual slacks and a button-down. They looked like a normal couple. Almost. Until you noticed the security detail waiting downstairs. The careful way Luciano scanned every room before letting Eva enter. The weapon he kept concealed at all times. Some precautions would never go away. Luciano's world was still dangerous, even with Volkov gone. There were always new threats, new rivals, new reasons to be vigilant. But Eva had learned to live with it, to accept that loving Luciano meant accepting the danger that came with him. The trick was not letting the danger define them. At the center, they were greeted by Sarah Chen and the rest of the staff. The place was buzzing with activity, support groups meeting, counselors working with families, children playing in the supervised daycare area. "Eva," A young woman approached, nervous but smiling. I wanted to thank you for everything. Eva recognized her. Jennifer, one of their first clients. Single mother drowning in payday loans, on the verge of losing her children to the system. How are you doing? Eva asked. Good. Really good. I got the job, the one you helped me interview for, and I made my first payment on the consolidated debt. Jennifer's eyes were bright with tears. I can see a way out now, because of you and Mr. Moretti. Because you gave me a chance when everyone else had given up. Eva hugged her, feeling the weight of gratitude and responsibility. This was why they did the work. For moments like this. You did the hard part, Eva said. We just gave you the tools. After Jennifer left, Luciano appeared at Eva's side, handing her coffee. You're good at this. Better than me. You're good at the business side. I'm good at the human side. We balance each other. We do. He studied her with that intensity she'd never quite gotten used to. Are you happy, Eva? The question wasn't casual. Luciano asked it regularly, needing reassurance that she'd chosen well, that she didn't regret staying. Eva understood it now, the fear beneath his control. The boy who'd lost his mother, the man who'd been betrayed by the woman he'd loved. Luciano's possessiveness came from terror of loss, and Eva's patience came from understanding. I'm happy, she said honestly. Are you? More than I deserve to be. He kissed her temple. I have you. I have purpose beyond violence. I have a life worth living instead of just surviving. His voice dropped. You gave me that, Tesoro. You saved me just as much as I saved you. We saved each other, Eva corrected. That's how this works. Marco appeared in the doorway, expression apologetic. Boss, sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. Luciano's demeanor shifted instantly, from husband to boss in a heartbeat. What kind of situation? The Castellanos. Isabella's brother, the new head of the family, is requesting a meeting. Eva's stomach tightened. The Castellanos. Isabella's family. The organization that had caused so much pain. Luciano's hand found hers, squeezing once. Reassurance. Tell him I'll meet him. Neutral ground. My choice of location. Luciano's voice was cold, controlled. And make it clear, any threat toward my wife, and the truce is over. Marco nodded and left. Eva looked up at Luciano, seeing the tension in his jaw. You don't have to do this alone, she said. I can come with you. No, the word was absolute. I won't risk you. Luciano, please, Eva, let me do this my way. Let me protect you. Eva wanted to argue, wanted to insist on being there, being involved. But she'd learned to pick her battles, and this Luciano's need to shield her from his world's worst elements. This was non-negotiable. Okay, she said, but you come home to me, safe. That's non-negotiable. Always. He kissed her, hard and possessive. I always come home to you. The meeting with the Castellanos happened that evening. Eva waited at the estate, trying not to pace, trying not to imagine worst-case scenarios. Mrs. Chen sat with her, offering tea and silent support. He'll be fine, the older woman said. He always is. I know. Doesn't make the waiting easier. Love never does. When Luciano finally returned, 3 hours later, Eva was on him before he'd fully entered the house, checking for injuries, for blood, for any signs something had gone wrong. I'm fine, he said, amused and touched by her concern. It was just a meeting. Just a meeting with people who have every reason to hate you. True, but it went well, actually. Luciano led her to the study, pouring them both a drink. Isabella's brother wanted to propose an alliance. His family is struggling after Victor's death created a power vacuum. He thinks partnering with me would stabilize things. And you said? I said I'd consider it, with conditions. He handed Eva her glass. The main one being that Isabella stays away from you, permanently. No contact, no chance Meetings, nothing. Eva sipped her whiskey, processing. You negotiated my protection into a business deal. I negotiate your protection into everything. Luciano said it like it was obvious. You're my priority. Always. And what did he say? He agreed. Isabella is being sent to their operations in Italy. She won't be a problem anymore. Eva should have felt relief. Instead, she felt something almost like pity. Isabella, exiled because she dared to reveal the truth, because she tried to save Eva from a fate Isabella herself had experienced. She tried to help me, Eva said quietly. In her own way, she thought she was protecting me. She tried to poison you against me. That's different. But Luciano's voice was less harsh than it could have been. I understand why you might feel sympathy for her, but she made her choices just like we've made ours. I know. Eva set down her glass, moving into Luciano's arms. I just hope she finds happiness, real happiness, not the bitter kind that comes from old wounds. You're too generous. One of us has to be. Eva smiled against his chest. You're the ruthless one. I'm the heart. Remember? We balance each other. We do. Luciano's arms tightened around her. Have I mentioned today that marrying you was the best decision I've ever made? The decision I made for both of us. You mean, the decision we made together. He tilted her face up. After I gave you the choice. Eventually. Eventually. Eva laughed. You're impossible. And yet, you love me. Unfortunately. There's that word again. But Luciano was smiling, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. What am I going to do with you? Love me, protect me, build this complicated life with me. Eva echoed his words from months ago. What else is there? Nothing. Luciano's kiss was soft, reverent. Absolutely nothing. That night, they sat on the balcony, their balcony, the place where so many important conversations had happened. The city sparkled below them, and Eva thought about how much had changed since that first night when Luciano had given her the key. She still carried it, not because she needed it anymore, but because it represented something important. Choice, freedom, trust. What are you thinking about? Luciano asked, his arm around her shoulders. Everything. Us. How we got here. Eva leaned into his warmth. I was thinking about the warehouse, about how terrified I was. Do you wish it had gone differently? That you'd never taken my hand? Eva considered the question seriously. If she could go back, knowing everything she knew now, the manipulation, the violence, the complicated love that had emerged, would she choose differently? No, she said finally. I wouldn't change it, because changing it would mean losing this. Losing you, and I don't want that. Even knowing what you had to go through, what I put you through. Even then, Eva turned to face him. You asked me once if I was happy. I am. But more than that, I'm alive. Really alive. In a way I never was before. You showed me strength I didn't know I had. You gave me purpose. And yes, you did it in the most controlling, manipulative way possible. But the result is still real. Luciano's eyes were bright with emotion. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. Eva kissed him softly. For better or worse. Through darkness and light. For as long as we both shall live. That sounds like a vow. It is. The one that matters. The one we keep choosing every day. They sat together as the stars came out, and Eva felt the peace of someone who'd found home after a long journey. It wasn't a traditional home. It was built on violence and obsession and morally great choices. But it was theirs. And Eva had learned that love didn't always look like fairy tales. Sometimes it looked like choosing someone despite their darkness. Because their darkness matched your own. Because together, you made light. Luciano Moretti had orchestrated her capture, manipulated her circumstances, stolen her choices. He'd also saved her life, protected her mother, given her purpose, and loved her with a ferocity that both terrified and thrilled her. He was her captor and her savior, her villain and her hero, her monster and her man. And Eva chose him. Every single day, she chose him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. That was the promise of a dangerous love. It was complicated, messy, built on questionable foundations, but it was also fierce and loyal and true. They were bound by ashes, yes, by violence and manipulation and all the dark things that had brought them together. But they were also bound by choice, by love that had been tested and proven, by the conscious decision to keep building something good from broken pieces. I love you, Eva whispered into the night. I love you too, Luciano responded. More than I thought I was capable of, more than I deserve. Just enough, Eva corrected. You love me just enough. They stayed there until the city lights began to dim, until sleep pulled at them both. And when they finally went inside, hand in hand, Eva knew something with absolute certainty. This was her life now. Dangerous, complicated, imperfect. And she wouldn't trade it for anything, because loving Luciano Moretti meant embracing darkness alongside light, meant accepting that protection could look like possession, that salvation could come through force, that the greatest love stories were sometimes the most twisted. Their marriage had started as a contract, a transaction, a carefully orchestrated trap, but loving him, truly loving him, that was never part of the deal. That was Eva's choice, her gift, her revolution. And as they fell asleep wrapped around each other, Eva smiled, because in the end, she'd gotten exactly what she needed. Not a prince, not a savior, not a hero, but a man who loved her with everything he had, darkness included. A man who would burn the world down to keep her safe. A man who was hers, completely and irrevocably, just as she was his. Forever bound by ashes, forever choosing each other, forever building their dangerous, beautiful love. Teach Ian.